Chapter 34:25. Regardless of whether it was the sword demon or the blood demon, they could not keep up with Yan Shifeng's speed. This way, Yan Shifeng and Ling Xiao became one-on-one instead. Ling Xiao really wanted to try and see what his chances of winning were against Yan Shifeng now. Soul Hall's Grand Elder really isn't joking. This martial soul is too awesome. It can even predict Ling Xiao's next move and make a prediction in advance. Terrifying. Although Ling Xiao has killed so many people before, this battle is the most crucial one. It's also the most dangerous one, isn't it? A moment of carelessness and you might lose your life. The neutral martial artists all understood that the current battle was the key. Whoever could laugh in the end would be the one who laughed the best. If Ling Xiao lost, then everything he had done before would have been for naught. Ling Xiao looked at Yan Shifeng, who blocked his path and calculated how to attack. His strongest attack now was undoubtedly the Ice Age, from the Ice Emperor's inheritance. However, using the Ice Age to deal with Yan Shifeng was truly somewhat extravagant. Therefore, he decided to try something else first. With the Fire Supreme sword in hand, Ling Xiao rapidly stabbed at Yan Shifeng. The sword light was incomparably resplendent in that instant. A scarlet flame jumped on the sword body, as if it was a fire from outside the sky, incomparably scorching and terrifying. Everyone raised their heads to look at the battle in the sky. That raging fire burned even more fiercely, and there was actually an aura of destruction constantly being produced. That should be a strange fire. How extravagant, using a strange fire in a sword art. This Ling Xiao is too terrifying. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao with surprise, jealousy, and naturally envy. The Fire Supreme sword flew into the western region divine tomb painting, and then flew out, burning even more fiercely. In the sky, it was like a blazing sun. He's too powerful. I can even feel the arrogance in his sword intent. It actually doesn't lose to Yan Shifeng at all. He's only 17 years old. If he is given more time, who would be qualified to compete with him? In the crowd, countless people were sighing with emotion. They were really glad that they were in the green zone today. Otherwise, it would be impossible to witness such an exciting scene. They could not see the rise of such a genius. Of course, it was impossible to tell what the outcome would be. But for Ling Xiao, challenging someone above his level was as normal as eating and drinking. He seemed to have an endless supply of trump cards. Only those who could push him to the brink of exhaustion would have a chance of defeating him. Yan Shifeng looked at the Fire Supreme sword in the sky with a heavy expression. If he still had his original cultivation, he naturally wouldn't be afraid. Moreover, he would definitely be able to suppress Ling Xiao. However, the problem was that he was heavily injured and could not display his original strength. Facing Ling Xiao's sword, he actually felt a bit of coldness. That sword was as hot as fire, but his heart was as cold as ice. But even so, he was definitely not afraid. His martial soul was not to be trifled with. He determined the trajectory of Ling Xiao's Fire Supreme sword. Yan Shifeng did not intend to take it head-on. He dodged directly, and then with a thought, a terrifying devil thunder formed above his head. Compared to Yama's devil thunder, Yan Shifeng's devil thunder was obviously more powerful. Kid, I admit that you're powerful, but under my martial soul, you have no chance of winning at all. Yan Shifeng snorted coldly in his heart. The devil thunder had already blasted towards a position. That was the place he determined that Ling Xiao would definitely pass by. However, the moment the devil thunder blasted out, Yan Shifeng saw Ling Xiao's lips curl into a mocking smile. Not good. Although he did not know what would happen, Yan Shifeng had a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart. Could it be that his judgment was wrong? Could it be that the situation was not what he imagined? Could it be that Ling Xiao had already seen through his martial soul in advance? The emergence of this question made Yan Shifeng's heart even more confused. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could anyone break the special effects of his martial soul? However, the reality was so cruel. His judgment was wrong. In the direction where the devil thunder blasted, there was indeed a figure, but it was not Ling Xiao, but the golden phoenix incarnation. The real Ling Xiao was already holding the Fire Supreme Sword and charging towards the path that Yan Shifeng would definitely pass by. At that moment, Yan Shifeng was almost suffocating, because at this moment he seemed to be taking the initiative to crash into the tip of Ling Xiao's sword. Retreating was absolutely impossible. He could only resist. Boom! Flames exploded. Crazy sword qi bloomed in the void. Yan Shifeng could only react hastily. Fortunately, although his strength had decreased, his cultivation was still there, so the speed of his sole secret technique was very fast. Whale hunting lightning spear. Amidst the roar, a huge lightning spear formed above his head. Then it was released, pressing forward with indomitable will. It was as if there was nothing that could resist this terrifying attack. The moment this attack was released, Yan Shifeng suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. He seemed to feel that he should be able to block this attack steadily. Fire Supreme Sword Art. Kill. Finally, Ling Xiao's attack also met it. It was like a raging fire, a meteorite hitting a planet. The terrifying flames completely exploded in the void. The strange flames completely enveloped both of them. Everyone below looked at this scene with their mouths agape. At this moment, Sword Demon and Blood Demon were unable to get close at all. Many people had a feeling. Facing Ling Xiao's sword, you could only choose to resist. If you wanted to dodge, no matter what, you would have the momentum of the raging fire. No matter what, you would not be faster than the sword in his hand. Rumble! The surging and terrifying aura completely exploded in the void. Heaven and earth seemed to shake because of this. In the space, a huge shockwave was formed, spreading in all directions. Many buildings in the green zone were destroyed. They collapsed one after another. Fortunately, this was Xuanwu Lake, and there were not many people living here. Otherwise, the scene would be even more terrifying. Crack! Crack! The light of the whale-hunting lightning spear rushed out from the flames. The endless flames actually began to extinguish. Only the lightning was constantly blooming. Yan Shifeng is worthy of being a reincarnation deity realm martial artist, even though his strength has decreased due to his heavy injuries. Although his injuries are weakened, Ling Xiao is still not his opponent. That's right. This time, Ling Xiao's plan was ingenious. Unfortunately, in the end, he still misjudged the opponent's strength. He overestimated his own strength too much. Blood Demon and Sword Demon also revealed a smile on their faces. To be honest, the two of them could not help much in this battle. Those two people were too abnormal, making it impossible for others to participate. However, seeing that Yan Shifeng finally won, the two of them were relieved. Otherwise, once Yan Shifeng was defeated, how could the two of them survive? However, the happiness only lasted for a moment. Everything in the sky seemed to be frozen in an instant. With Ling Xiao's body as the center, the extreme cold domain was completely released. Even the whale-hunting lightning spear was frozen in the air and gradually dissipated. Yan Shifeng was also greatly affected. His entire body's movements slowed down. Chapter 34:26. Qi! Qi! The air was torn apart by the sword qi. No one noticed when Ling Xiao's second sword was condensed. This time he chose to use Supreme Fire's Blazing Sky Sword Art and Supreme Ice's Freezing Sky Sword Art one after another. Although there was no increase in strength, but the continuity became stronger. In the extreme cold domain, the Ice Supreme Sword was like a dragon swimming in the sea, receiving the greatest strengthening. Although the Fire Supreme Sword had been extinguished, the light of the Ice Supreme Sword was incomparably dazzling. Yan Shifeng's eyes revealed fear. Because of a mistake, Ling Xiao seized the opportunity and did not give him any time to regroup. He wanted to use this mistake to completely defeat him. Fortunately, he was a soul clan martial artist. Fortunately, he was good at soul mystic techniques. Otherwise, under such circumstances, it would be very difficult for him to even move, let alone fight back. Soul mystic technique. Black lightning skeleton. Yan Shifeng was struggling to catch up, but even so, he was absolutely unwilling to give up. The old thing had very powerful experience. Even if it was a dying struggle, it could still make the enemy feel very uncomfortable. The black skeleton martial soul behind him actually merged with the black lightning and blasted towards Ling Xiao. The black lightning was actually not afraid of the restrictions of the extreme cold domain and blasted out a path that belonged to itself. Supreme Ice's freezing sky sword art. At the same time, Ling Xiao's sword art had already been blasted out. It collided with the black lightning skeleton. In that instant, the battle between ice and lightning unfolded in the extreme cold domain. A cold light flashed through Ling Xiao's eyes. The extreme cold domain was his domain. In this domain, it could not only freeze the enemy, he could perfectly control any corner of the domain. When Supreme Ice's freezing sky sword art collided with the black lightning skeleton and confronted each other, behind Yan Shifeng, a sword that was almost completely transparent, pierced out. Soul Elder Ling Tian's sword art. It could completely transform the bloodthirsty demon sword into an ethereal soul state. It was impossible to guard against. How terrifying. This Ling Xiao is too strong. He was actually able to easily use 3 king-level sword arts without even panting. Even if it's a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist, I'm afraid it's also very difficult to accomplish. Everyone was shocked as they watched the battle in the sky. Ling Xiao had truly surpassed their imaginations. They didn't belong to the same dimension anymore. This was a monster. What a monster! He was an inhuman genius. The release of the Soul Exalts Ling Heaven Sword was too sudden. Yan Shifeng was so scared that his hair stood on end. At that moment, he finally understood how his grandson Yama felt. You can't judge this young man in front of you by his strength on the surface. It was too terrifying. As long as you didn't kill him, he seemed to always be able to find a way to turn defeat into victory, making it difficult for you to resist. I'll make you suffer. Run. Everything Yan Shifeng had done before was to create an opportunity for himself to escape. Because of his misjudgment, he was suppressed by Ling Xiao. If he couldn't escape from the shadow of this mistake, then only death would await him. Fortunately, his cultivation level was still at the reincarnation divine realm. Fortunately, he had cultivated many escape skills. Rumble. Yan Shifeng used almost all the true essence in his body to condense a powerful soul sword to block that terrifying bloodthirsty demon sword. After the terrifying explosion, his body frantically retreated. At the same time, he felt dizzy and had a splitting headache. There was no other way. In order to block the sudden attack of the Soul Exalts Ling Heaven Sword, he could only do this. Run. At this moment, Yan Shifeng only had this thought. He had underestimated his opponent too much. He said that he would team up with Sword Demon and Blood Demon, but in the end, it became him fighting Ling Xiao alone. He regretted it. He shouldn't have relied on his black skeleton martial soul to be so arrogant. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He had used the force of the collision to escape from the extreme cold domain. Next, he had to regroup and team up with Sword Demon and Blood Demon to kill Ling Xiao. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt his heart tighten. A sense of crisis that he had never felt before came crashing down on him. Do you think I will let go of this one and only chance to kill you? Ling Xiao's voice was like a demon's voice, causing Yan Shifeng's body to instantly stiffen. A strange two-handed sword appeared in Ling Xiao's hand. That huge sword was emitting an extremely cold chill. It was also emitting an incomparably terrifying power. Yan Shifeng didn't even have the chance to adjust his breathing at this moment. Ling Xiao was already above his head. Is that the Ice Age? Yan Shifeng felt that he couldn't be wrong. Only that terrifying Ice Age could give him such a terrifying feeling. Even Ling Xiao's 3 swords combined into one was definitely not this terrifying. It was as if the one he was fighting now wasn't Ling Xiao, but the Ice Emperor. The coldness released by the Ice Age was even more terrifying than the extreme cold domain. Yan Shifeng felt that he couldn't dodge it at all, and blocking it was even more impossible. At this moment, because of that crazy attack just now, he had basically exhausted his true essence and soul force. How could he block it? Supreme Elder! Sword Demon and Blood Demon were originally watching the show not far away. At this moment, they realized that the situation wasn't right, and both of them madly rushed over. However, how could Ling Xiao give them such an opportunity? The flaming skeleton general, who had been on standby, flapped its wings and rose into the air. It blocked Blood Demon and Sword Demon, respectively. Blood escape! The Sword Demon seemed to have really been stopped. However, Blood Demon released a strange blood escape and disappeared in front of the flaming skeleton general. However, Ling Xiao's expression was still indifferent. At this moment, Yan Shifeng was behind his eyes. Whether it was Blood Demon or Sword Demon, they couldn't withstand a single blow in his eyes. Wind, snow, ice ceiling steps. Stepping out of the void, the wind, snow, ice ceiling steps wrapped around that blood shadow. That blood shadow was forcibly slowed down. Then, the Ice Age fiercely chopped down towards Yan Shifeng's head. Yan Shifeng, you didn't have to die, but you are too stupid. If you dare to hurt Dark Frost, I will make you regret being born in this world. In the roar, the cold aura released by the Ice Age had completely enveloped Yan Shifeng. Yan Shifeng was shivering from the cold. He didn't even have the strength to speak. Die. Finally, the terrible Ice Age directly chopped down from Yan Shifeng's head. There was no obstruction. The Ice Age cut down from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. A line of ice appeared on Yan Shifeng's body, which just happened to split his body into 2. There was no blood, only coldness. Yan Shifeng's eyes instantly became dull. He stared blankly at the 2 halves of his body that were gradually separated. Fear was finally released from his eyes. He didn't expect that he, a dignified reincarnation divine realm warrior, would die here. He actually died in the hands of Ling Xiao. Regret. Why didn't he choose to escape? Why did he have to fight with this madman? He could have had a greater advantage. However, he stupidly thought that he could kill Ling Xiao with his current strength. But it caused him to fall into such a situation. Chapter 34:27. My lord! The Blood Demon witnessed everything with his own eyes, and his eyes instantly turned blood red. She was incomparably furious and shocked. All of her blood seemed to be boiling. She broke free of the frigid energy and charged toward Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao didn't even look at the Blood Devil. He just stuffed a pill into his mouth as if there was no one around. The Ice Age really did consume a lot of true energy. With this move, his true energy was almost completely depleted. When the Blood Demon had already arrived in front of him and was about to kill him, the Blood Demon's eyes lit up. Ling Xiao turned to look at him. He didn't use a sword. He didn't use any technique. His hand transformed into the claws of the limitless Heavenly Mouse, and he slashed out. The Blood Devil's attack was easily destroyed by the claws. Then, the claws closed around the Blood Devil's heart. Since you're so loyal, I'll fulfill your wish. Bam! There was no suspense whatsoever. The Blood Devil's heart exploded, and his eyes went blank. Then his corpse fell to the ground. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Dead. Yan Shifeng was dead. The Blood Devil was dead. The fight had only been going on for about 10 minutes. Even though a Samsara deity realm martial artist was heavily injured, he was defeated by Ling Xiao using skill. His body had been cleaved in half. A 9th Division life-sizer's heart had been crushed in a single move. Blood splattered everywhere. It was over. Bam! Smack! 2 corpses fell to the ground, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Good heavens! 2 famous powerhouses had actually died. Just like that? How could Ling Xiao kill them so easily? Was this a dream? Yan Shifeng and the Blood Devil had been tricked by Ling Xiao and hadn't even touched a hair on Ling Xiao's head. As for the Sword Devil, he was scared out of his wits. The truth was that as soon as Yan Shifeng was killed, he knew that everything was over. He had only been the Sword Devil for a few days, but now he was going to die. Meanwhile, Little Gold had already killed 2 9th Division life seizers. His speed was no slower than Ling Xiao's. He didn't even use the golden light of the 9 Serenities' yellow springs. Instead, he used his fleshly body strength to rip the 2 9th Division life seizers to shreds. In the crowd, a woman glared at Ling Xiao fiercely. Then he left quietly. Ling Xiao, I'm unable to kill you today. However, remember this. I, Lung Chuyan, will definitely take revenge for this. Lung Chuyan had already found a suitable body. It was a pity that this physical body was too weak. If she wanted to take revenge, she could only raise the strength of this physical body. Fortunately, she had her own way, but it would take some time. Not only did Ling Xiao kill her son, but he also killed her father-in-law. He even destroyed the inner palace. How could he not take revenge? Ling Xiao did not notice Lung Chuyan's departure. After all, the possession had already succeeded. As long as Lung Chuyan did not expose her aura, then she would completely become another woman. He was not a deity, so how could he have sensed it? The Sword Devil looked around. There was no one left to fight alongside him. Suddenly, he landed on the ground and shouted, Young Hero Ling, I'm willing to surrender. I'm willing to reveal the secrets of the inner palace. Was he the only one left in the inner palace? What else could he do? He had seen Ling Xiao's strength. What kind of joke was this? Fighting someone like that? How was that any different from sending him to his death? Surrender? Don't you think it's a bit too late? Ling Xiao looked at the Sword Devil with disdain. The Blood Demon's loyalty had made him feel pity for him, but he despised the Sword Demon. Kill! There was no hesitation. His figure flashed through the air like lightning, and in the blink of an eye he was in front of the Sword Devil. He crushed the Sword Devil's neck. Dead silence. Dead silence. They were all dead. There were more than 3,000 people in the inner palace, and not a single one was left alive. Ling Xiao was truly too savage. Such an ending undoubtedly shocked everyone. Ling Xiao basically wiped out the inner palace of the Soul Palace by himself. Even if this was told to others, no one would believe it. After all, it was a bit too fantastical. But this was the truth. Today, Ling Xiao stepped on the bodies of countless experts to make his name known in the Green Zone. At the same time, in the eyes of these people, he was not only a genius. He was also a terrifying god of slaughter. I don't want to mess with this guy anymore. Yeah, I was thinking of getting the Ice Emperor's inheritance from him. Now that I think about it, I'll just forget about it. What a joke. Making an enemy out of this god of slaughter is the same as courting death. Everyone agreed with his point of view. Even desperados had to consider the possibility. It was impossible to compete with Ling Xiao for the Ice Emperor's inheritance. Unless someone was an idiot, no one would offend such a person. Ling Xiao knew what he had done. From the day he became sensible, he knew what this world was like. The mystic world was filled with killing everywhere. The only rule was that the strong preyed on the weak. He had seen his family and friends killed with his own eyes. Although he took revenge, it still could not make up for the regret in his heart. So from that day on, he swore that no matter who dared to touch the people he cherished, he would turn into a devil. He would turn into a god of slaughter and kill everyone. He took a deep breath. Ling Xiao returned to his original appearance, and the murderous aura on his body was naturally gone. At this time, those neutral martial artists breathed a sigh of relief. Dark Frost was released from the beast ring. Although she was still very weak, she was no longer in danger. Dark Frost's face, which was originally as cold as ice, revealed a smile and warmth. Seeing this smile, the murderous intent in Ling Zhao's heart seemed to have melted instantly. Actually, it was not bad to have such a sister. For Dark Frost. So what if he turned into a malicious spirit? So what if people misunderstood? He did not care. He felt that doing anything for Dark Frost was worth it. Although Dark Frost's age was very different from the Moon Maiden's. But if it weren't for Ming Xuang, he wouldn't be where he was today. He might have died in the meteorite zone. After coming to the green zone, it was Dark Frost who protected him time and time again that allowed him to achieve what he had today. He owed Dark Frost too much. "Girl, are you okay?" In front of this girl, he was very gentle. Yes, big brother Ling Xiao. Seeing the person she thought of as her big brother fighting desperately for her. Even if Dark Frost was not okay, she would only say that she was fine. Of course, she was indeed fine now. Her life spirit had returned to her body. From today onwards, her comprehension and ability would only be stronger than before, and she would not become weaker. Dark Frost wanted to protect her big brother Ling Xiao. In this world, there were only two people who could make her feel warmth. One was her biological brother, the person who had been killed by the Hall of Souls. She would never forget it in her life. The other was her big brother Ling Xiao. Fortunately, her big brother Ling Xiao did not die because of her. Otherwise, she would really break down. Chapter 34:28. Dark Frost swore that if it was for big brother Ling Xiao, she was willing to give up everything. Now that the inner palace was destroyed, only 3 old things were trapped in the chaos bottle. Ling Xiao could not do anything to them and did not dare to release them. They could not do anything to Ling Xiao either. This matter could only be solved in the future. As for Soul Hall, only the outer palace was left. It existed in name only. However, Ling Xiao felt that the outer palace's overall strength might not be weaker than the inner palace. All along, the outer palace had been bullied by the inner palace and supported Dark Frost even more. Now that the inner palace was completely destroyed, there was no need to talk about it. Dark Frost, an individual strength is limited. Since the outer palace supports you so much, why don't we just let Soul Hall continue to exist? It's just that the rules have to be changed in the future. It can't be like before. Otherwise, it will still be the same old path. Ling Xiao thought about it and said, "I'll listen to big brother Ling Zhao's instructions." Dark Frost nodded and then looked at the outer palace experts who had been released. From now on, Soul Hall will no longer be divided into inner palace and outer palace. Moreover, the former Azura Hell will be abolished forever. We are together for a better foothold in this world, for a better life. I hope that after the trial in the immemorial divine tomb ends, everyone can return to the western region alive. Only in front of Ling Xiao would Dark Frost show the innocent look of a little girl. Outside, in front of others, she was still so mighty, domineering, and cold as frost. Even though the life soul was back as the owner of Soul Hall, she still had to have the dignity. "We obey." No one questioned. Originally, the inner palace was above the outer palace and did not take the outer palace people seriously. One could imagine that even Dark Frost, the palace master, was treated as a high-level fighter. The others would only be worse off. Today, they were able to reconstruct the Soul Palace. They were the founders, the founding elders. How could they not be happy? Okay, leave some people to clean up the corpses. The rest of you go back and inform everyone of what happened here and my decision. There are still many outer palace martial artists in Soul Palace that don't know about this. Dark Frost added, "By the way, Wind Soul, Warrior Soul, and Battle Soul, the 3 of you stay behind." The 3 people that Dark Frost mentioned were the 3 strongest people in the outer palace other than her. Among them, Feng Han was already a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist. He was also the oldest, over 60 years old. As for the Battle Soul and Battle Spirit, they were both in their 40s and were 9th Division Life Seizers. Their strength was not inferior to the 3 devils at all. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Because he was from the Outer Palace, he didn't have the qualifications to possess any authority at all. He could only act as a hired thug. After everyone went their own way, Dark Frost brought Wind Soul, Soul Soul, Battle Soul, and Ling Xiao back to her own palace in Soul Palace. There are 2 reasons why I asked you to come. First, in the future, Soul Palace will no longer have 3 devils, only 3 souls, which are the 3 of you. Normally, I won't manage the sect affairs, so you can discuss it. Wind Soul is the oldest and has the most experience. Listen to his opinion. Dark Frost said, "Truth be told, she just wanted to be lazy. In the past, as the sect lord of Soul Palace, she actually didn't have to manage the day-to-day affairs of the sect. All she had to do was rely on her own strength to fight for the sect. She planned to do the same in the future. For a young girl like her, it would be too troublesome to manage such mundane affairs." "Yes, mistress." Wind Soul and the other 2 were delighted. After all, Dark Frost's orders meant that the 3 of them were in charge of the most important affairs of Soul Palace. How could they not be happy? Whether it was in terms of status or resources, they would have more than before. Second, there are many good things left in the inner palace. For now, all of them will be confiscated. You didn't contribute to what happened today. In the future, when you make contributions, you'll be rewarded. Understood? "Yes, mistress." The 3 of them replied. Ling Xiao stood off to the side, feeling a bit awkward. After all, he was an outsider, and yet Dark Frost was telling him these things. She was clearly telling Wind Soul, Duhan, and Battle Soul that Ling Xiao wasn't an outsider. That's all. However, you have to take note that in the future, Brother Ling Xiao's status will be higher than mine. The people outside may not know, but you have to know. "Yes." The 3 of them replied again. Then Wind Soul cupped his hands at Ling Xiao and said, "Young Hero Ling is talented and powerful. I'm impressed. You're indeed the most qualified person to inherit the Ice Emperor's legacy. Please take care of me in the future." "Sure." Ling Xiao nodded. "All right, the 3 of you can leave first. The main thing is to stabilize the morale of the army. I believe everyone is panicking now that the inner palace has been destroyed. However, there's nothing to panic about. As long as I'm here, Soul Palace won't fall." Dark Frost waved her hand and said, "Palace Master, there's actually something that you should know." Wind Soul suddenly said, "Just say it. I'm the Palace Master in front of others, but there's no need to be reserved here." Dark Frost said, "Yes, Palace Master. It's actually about the Divine Demon Invitational Tournament." Wind Soul said, "Divine Demon Invitational Tournament? I seem to have heard of it. Yan Shifeng mentioned it before his death, but he didn't tell me the details." Dark Frost said in a low voice, "Is it compulsory to participate in this Divine Demon Invitational Tournament?" "Yes, it's compulsory." Wind Soul nodded and said, "This is the rule set by the owner of the Divine Demon Token. Each of the 9 Supremes of the Western region must send at least 3 martial artists to participate. There's also an age limit. The rule is that the participants must be under 40 years old. If any force doesn't send a martial artist to participate, then the owner of the Divine Demon Token will kill all the martial artists of that force in the immemorial Divine Tomb." So ruthless. Ling Xiao couldn't help but gasp when he heard this. What was the owner of the Divine Demon Token trying to do? "Tell me the details." Dark Frost didn't dare to be careless when she heard Wind Soul's words. "Sit down." "Thank you, Palace Master." Wind Soul, Warrior Soul, and Battle Soul all sat down. Wind Soul continued, "If we want to talk about this Divine Demon Invitational Tournament, we have to talk about the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb. What does this have to do with the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb? Dark Frost asked. Ling Xiao listened at the side and didn't say anything. He knew that what Wind Soul was going to say next was very likely related to the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb that he had been searching for. Of course it's related. As for what it's related to, let's talk about it later. I'll first briefly explain the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb, because it's really important. Wind Soul said. All right, there's no harm in saying it. Anyway, we have plenty of time now. Dark Frost nodded. I also eavesdropped on these things, so it might not be accurate. According to Yan Shifeng, the experts of the 4 major regions have calculated that the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb will open within this year. And it's very likely to be in the immemorial divine tomb or the 4 major regions. Because all the treasures to open the ancient Sword Emperor's imperial tomb have already appeared. The Wind Soul Dao revealed a very shocking matter. Chapter 34:29. I heard that as long as you gather all 10 diagrams, you'll be able to obtain the key to the ancient Sword Imperial Tomb. Ling Xiao interjected. This rumor is inaccurate. To be precise, there are a total of 6 items required to open the ancient Sword Imperial Tomb: the ancient Sword Imperial Diagram, the ancient Sword Imperial Sword, the ancient Sword Imperial Crown, the ancient Sword Imperial Armor, the ancient Sword Imperial Staff, and the ancient Sword Imperial Throne. Now, these 6 items have all appeared in the world. Moreover, they've all arrived at the primordial divine tomb. However, only 5 of them are known to be exact. The whereabouts of the ancient Sword Imperial Diagram are still unknown. Hearing this, Ling Xiao's brows couldn't help but twitch. He guessed that the Western Region Divine Tomb map he obtained should be the ancient Sword Imperial Diagram. It seemed that after the ancient Sword Imperial Diagram transformed into his martial soul, it wasn't noticed by the owner of the God-Devil token. This could be considered extremely lucky. Continue, Dark Frost said. The 5 items that have already appeared are in the hands of the myriad countries, the Alliance of Vengeance, the Heavenly Dynasty, the Western Region Heretic God, and our Soul Hall. The Soul Hall has the ancient Sword Imperial Staff. We don't know where Yan Shifeng hid it, but we'll try our best to find it. The Soul Hall is only so big. If the items aren't in their storage rings, then they must be hidden in the Soul Hall. Feng Han said, There's no need to look for it. You're talking about this, right? Ling Xiao took out the ancient Sword Imperial Staff. What made Ling Xiao feel strange was that there was nothing magical about the ancient Sword Imperial Staff. It just emitted the aura of an emperor. This was completely different from his Western Region Divine Tomb map. Not only did the Western Region Divine Tomb map possess the aura of an ancient Sword Emperor, but it also possessed the king rank martial art, the 9 Sovereigns sword technique. Could it be that the Western Region Divine Tomb map isn't one of the 6 treasures? If that's the case, then it's strange. The Western Region Divine Tomb map is definitely related to the ancient Sword Imperial Tomb, but it's not one of the 6 keys. That's right, this. Feng Han hurriedly nodded. Ling Xiao felt that his luck was really good. Coupled with the ancient Sword Emperor staff, he already possessed 2 keys. If he gathered all of them, he would really be able to open the ancient Sword Imperial Tomb map. The evil god of the West. Dark Frost frowned and said, This Western Region evil god doesn't belong to any of the 4 major forces, but his strength is incomparably powerful. He should also be an expert of the reincarnation divine realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to protect the treasure by himself. The Hall Master is right. These 6 treasures have been through many fights and battles. In the end, they all returned to their respective masters. It was rumored that each of the 6 treasures could bring 3 people into the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. Therefore, in the end, only 18 martial artists will enter the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. Feng Han said, Wonderful. With this ancient Sword Emperor's staff, Big Brother Ling Xiao and I can go to the ancient sword imperial mausoleum together. As for the other person, you three can compete for it. When the time comes, I will hold an internal competition. Whoever wins will go. But let me put it bluntly. If I find out that you're using unfair competition methods in an attempt to harm your competitors, you'll be punished. I'd rather kill that person and go with Brother Ling Xiao. Dark Frost said coldly. She seemed naive, but after so many fights for power, she still had some experience. She wasn't as ignorant as she seemed. Feng Hun and the other two's hearts trembled, and they hurriedly nodded in agreement. But soon after, Feng Hun said, "Actually, things might not be that bad." "Oh, tell me about it," Ling Xiao asked with interest. "Then we have to talk about the God Fiend Invitational. Actually, it doesn't matter who obtains the key to the ancient sword imperial mausoleum. In the end, they have to hand it over to the owner of the God Fiend token. And in this God Fiend Invitational, 18 people will be selected. The strongest 18 people will be chosen, and these 18 people will get 18 spots." Feng Hun replied, "Why is it so complicated? Since the owner of the God Fiend token has a way to obtain all the keys, why doesn't he open the ancient sword imperial mausoleum himself?" Ling Xiao asked curiously. "I don't know the exact reason, but there are 3 opinions in the rumors. First, those who can enter the ancient sword imperial mausoleum must be martial artists from the western region. Second, the ancient sword imperial mausoleum is very dangerous, and the owner of the God Fiend token isn't willing to take the risk. Third, perhaps the most important thing hasn't appeared, and the ancient sword emperor is doing this just to lure that thing out. These 3 reasons are all possible, but what's the most important thing? Could it be the ancient sword emperor's diagram?" Ling Xiao was puzzled. "I'm not too sure about that, but no matter what, this is the God Fiend Invitational's competition system," Feng Hun said. Ling Xiao nodded. From what he heard, he had to participate in this God Fiend Invitational, because in order to obtain one of the 18 spots, he had to participate. Although the Ice Emperor's inheritance was powerful, it could only be used in the immemorial divine mausoleum. In the 4 regions, it would probably be an ordinary item, and only the inheritance of the ancient sword imperial mausoleum could be obtained. Only then would he be able to avoid being bullied in the 4 regions. Even if it was purely to become stronger, Ling Xiao would definitely not let go of such a great opportunity. "Big Brother Ling Xiao, are you going to represent our Soul Palace in the competition?" Dark Frost asked. "I'm afraid that's not possible. To tell you the truth, I'm the Emperor of the 8 Immortals' Kingdom." Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. "I can only represent the 8 Immortals' Kingdom. However, Dark Frost, I can help you find someone to participate. His strength is probably not weaker than mine." "Who?" Dark Frost asked. "Don't worry, you'll know soon. But before that, I have to think of a way to defeat Prince Tian." Ling Xiao gritted his teeth. "Prince Tian? Prince Tian, who recently obtained the Sky Sword Emperor's inheritance?" Feng Hun said in shock. "That's right, it's him. Otherwise, who would dare to call himself Prince Tian in the immemorial divine mausoleum?" Ling Xiao said, "Young hero Ling, don't blame this old man for belittling himself. Prince Tian's cultivation is already stronger than yours, and after obtaining the Sky Sword Emperor's inheritance, he's even more terrifying. I'm afraid you're not his match." Feng Hun said with a frown. It's nothing. I also know that I'm not his match now, but I'll be soon enough." Ling Xiao's confidence came from his terrifying cultivation speed. He believed that he would soon surpass Prince Tian, just like surpassing the Koi King and Yama. But there's only a month left until the God Devil Invitational Tournament, Feng Hun said. "That long?" Ling Xiao was a little surprised. "Long." Feng Hun was stunned. He really couldn't understand Ling Xiao's train of thought. Others would only think that a month was too short to catch up with Prince Tian. How could they think that it was long? Hee hee, you're indeed big brother Ling Xiao. Look, you've scared Feng Hun, Dark Frost said with a smile. Feng Hun was a little embarrassed, but he still couldn't believe that Ling Xiao could become stronger than Prince Tian in a month's time. All right, the three of you can go and do your own things. Dark Frost waved her hand. Chapter 34:30. We'll take our leave now. Wind Soul and the others nodded, then turned and left. Big brother Ling Xiao, are you going to start cultivating? Dark Frost asked. Yeah, a month should be enough time for me to catch up to that bastard Prince Tian. At the very least, I need to reach the life-seizing level. At that time, those below the reincarnation immortal realm and without the legacy of the ancient emperor will not be my match. Ling Xiao's words were filled with confidence. To most people, breaking through to the life-seizing level was extremely difficult. Furthermore, it involved terrifying lightning tribulation. Many people had died because of it. But to Ling Xiao, it wasn't a problem at all. After all, Ling Xiao's confidence stemmed from his tyrannical martial soul. Truth be told, if it weren't for this fortuitous encounter, he would have long since died among the beggars. Dark Frost believes in Big Brother Ling Xiao, she said. In that case, Big Brother, you should focus on your cultivation. Without the interference of the inner sanctum, you can focus on your cultivation. If you need any resources, just tell Dark Frost. No matter what it is, Dark Frost will get it for you. Dark Frost clenched her fists in excitement. Now that Dark Frost had her own life soul, she was even more adorable than before. There was no need to doubt that. Ling Xiao was very happy to have a little sister like her. Ha ha ha. In that case, Big Brother will thank you in advance. Don't worry. If you need anything, I won't hold back. Right, I need two things right now. The first is a snake-type demon core, but preferably one that's at least in the 9th level of the life-seizing level. The second is the exquisite sword. The third is a 7-star stone. You can get any one of these 3 things. Furthermore, I need light-type, fire-type, or anything with heat. Little Gold will need them. Ling Xiao wasn't holding back at all. In order to make himself stronger before the God Devil Invitational, he didn't need to hold back. After all, he couldn't always rely on Dark Frost to protect him. As an older brother, it was his duty to protect Dark Frost. This time, Little Gold also made a great contribution. If Shai Jin hadn't found Dark Frost's life soul, it was hard to say how the battle would have developed. Okay, Big Brother Ling Xiao, I got it. Ming Shuang's memory was very good. She remembered everything that Ling Xiao said in her heart. After parting ways with Ling Xiao, Dark Frost went to the Greenwood district alone. She didn't encounter any threats as she passed through the meteorite zone. After all, she had already killed the Undead King. When she transmigrated, the countless monsters could only hide when they saw her. Dark Frost went to the Greenwood district and killed a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm demon snake. Then he brought the demon snake's crystal core back to the green zone. It only took him an hour to go back and forth. At this time, Ling Xiao was still pondering the usage of Ice Age and had not yet gone into seclusion to cultivate. Big Brother Ling Xiao, this is for you. I've got it. Dark Frost excitedly handed the demon beast's crystal core to Ling Xiao. A heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm demon beast's crystal core. This is a monster that even a reincarnation god realm martial artist has a hard time killing. Where did you get it? Ling Xiao could not help but ask as he felt the powerful energy from the demon snake's crystal core. Hee hee, Big Brother Ling Xiao, don't ask. Just tell me if you can use it. Dark Frost laughed. Of course I can use it. Ling Xiao nodded and said, Thank you, Dark Frost. But don't take risks for such things in the future. It's okay. In this immemorial divine tomb, other than the god devil token owner and some of his subordinates, there are no other people. Dark Frost, I'm not afraid of anyone. It's not dangerous at all. Dark Frost laughed. All right, but no matter what, it's better to be careful. This thing is exactly what I need." Ling Xiao sighed in his heart. It was probably useless for him to persuade her. Dark Frost really treated him as her own brother, and the kind of brother who had a very good relationship with her. That was why he took the risk to go to the Greenwood district to get this thing. "I know, big brother Ling Xiao. I won't let myself die so easily. It wasn't easy for me to get to know big brother Ling Xiao. How can I bear to die? Oh, right, Xiao Jin, come out for a moment. This is for you," Dark Frost suddenly said. She took out another demon beast's crystal core and said, "This, speaking of which, my luck is not bad. I met a heavily injured reincarnation god realm demon beast. Lava demon scorpion. I also killed it. This demon beast's crystal core, I'll give it to Xiao Jin. Reincarnation god, realm demon beast. My god, Dark Frost, you couldn't have killed the big boss of the Greenwood district, right?" Ling Xiao was taken aback. "No, I really picked up a loophole. I guess this guy was injured by the undead king before." Dark Frost stuck out her tongue and said, "Okay, I'll believe you for the time being. But really don't take the risk." "Of course not. Big brother Ling Xiao, Xiao Jin, don't worry and cultivate. As for the other things, I've already asked the people of the Soul Palace to search everywhere. I believe there will be results soon." Dark Frost turned around and skipped away, looking at her leaving figure. Ling Xiao couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. "This girl, forget it. Don't think too much. I'd better become stronger as soon as possible. That way, I won't let this girl continue to take risks." Xiao Jin continued to evolve in the beast ring. This demon beast's crystal core of the second level of the reincarnation god realm should be able to let you advance to at least the first level of the reincarnation god realm, right? Ling Xiao asked with hope. "It should be possible. But boss, I won't be able to talk for a while. What's there to be afraid of? The stronger you are, the more likely you will be to recover your human body in the future. It will also be of great help to me. Don't think about anything else. Just like this time, if you weren't strong enough, I'm afraid you wouldn't even be able to hide from those outer palace warriors guarding the Soul Palace. So don't be long-winded. Hurry up." "Yes." Xiao Jin swallowed the demon beast's crystal core in one gulp and then fell into a deep sleep. "Okay, it's time for me to cultivate. When the three swords are combined, it can produce 15 times the power of an ordinary beginner king level martial skill. In fact, it's already higher than an intermediate king level martial skill. When the four swords are combined, the attack power will increase by 20 times, which just happens to reach the destructive power of an advanced king level martial skill. But the consumption will probably be huge. My current cultivation is still not enough. Even if the three swords are combined, I can only use it 3 times at most. 4 swords combined. 1 time is probably enough to choke me, but I still have to cultivate. After all, with such a powerful sword move, it will definitely be effective when I encounter a really difficult enemy." Ling Xiao thought, then took out the Supreme Snake Sword and put it together with the Demon Snake's crystal core. When he thought of the 9 Supreme Sword techniques, he was quite excited. If he guessed correctly, when he finished cultivating the 6 sword techniques and released them at the same time, the power would reach the peak of the general level martial skill. In fact, there were a total of 10 sword techniques in the 9 Supreme Sword techniques. What would happen if he cultivated the last 4 types as well? He was really looking forward to it. Chapter 34-31. Ling Xiao was thinking that once he mastered all 10 sword techniques of the 9 Supreme Sword techniques, would it be more terrifying than the Ice Age? He felt that the power of the Ice Age was more terrifying than a martial technique at the peak of the general level. And this was just an ordinary attack. The Ice Age contained the true, unique skill of the Ice Emperor. It was a pity that his cultivation was too low to master it. He would probably have to wait until he reached the reincarnation divine state before he could master it. Even so, he could basically kill a martial artist at the heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm with the ordinary attack of the Ice Age. Even a martial artist at the reincarnation divine state would not dare to take it head-on. Forget it, let's not think too much. Let's take it one step at a time. Ling Xiao took a deep breath to calm himself down. The demon snake crystal core began to resonate with the supreme snake sword. With this connection, the cultivation of the supreme snake sword technique would be easier. The moment the resonance occurred, Ling Xiao held the demon snake crystal core in his hand and began to comprehend it. The cultivation method of the sword technique had long been firmly engraved in his mind. It was not a problem for him. Furthermore, he had already successfully cultivated 3 types of sword techniques. The 4th type would be relatively easier to master. After only 10 minutes, the supreme snake sword seemed to have a life of its own. It swayed in the air like a ferocious, venomous snake. Success! The direct, destructive power of the supreme snake sword technique is not as good as the supreme flames blazing sky sword technique, but its continuous destructive power is more terrifying. If I integrate it with my poison, it will be even more powerful. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of joy. He did not expect that the comprehension of the 4th sword technique would be so easy. The 9 supreme sword techniques may not be as simple as I thought. After all, this is the sword technique left by the ancient sword emperor. He used it when he was not strong enough. It should not be worse than the Ice Age, right? After completing the cultivation, Ling Xiao had another idea. Previously, he had heard that when the 9 sovereigns' sword techniques were cultivated to the 6th level, all the sword techniques would be upgraded. In other words, the original elementary king level sword technique would become an intermediate king level sword technique. In this way, the power of the combined attack should also increase. At that time, the combined effect of the 2 swords would probably reach the level of a high king level martial skill. The power of the 4 swords combined into one was already at the peak of the king stage. In other words, this swordsmanship could evolve. Although there might still be an upper limit, this upper limit was most likely already at the level of a royal martial skill. When he thought of this, he could not help but feel a little excited. Just a set of martial skills left outside was already so terrifying. Then, how powerful would the treasures in the ancient sword imperial mausoleum be? Just thinking about it made him unable to calm down. Sister Moon Maiden, it seems like we'll be reuniting again soon. As for my friends in the western regions, I'll definitely make a trip back after this trip to the Archean Divine Tomb. The entire western regions will be ours. Ling Xiao was very ambitious. Apart from his love affairs, he had never forgotten his great ambition: unify the profound world. After he finished cultivating the supreme snake venomous sky sword art, for the first time, Ling Xiao really took out Yan Shifeng and Yama storage rings and began to carefully examine them. His soul power was very strong, but some of the previous soul secret techniques were not enough now. He needed a new soul secret technique, or something that could use soul power: Baron sword art, bloodthirsty battle body, elementary king level secret technique, demonic thunder technique. These were all things in Yama's storage ring. In addition, there were some spirit stones. Ling Xiao had no interest in these 3 things at all with the bloodthirsty battle body. As for the magic thunder art and baron sword art, he could cultivate them, but they were just supplements and overuses. Putting these aside first, Ling Xiao continued to rummage through Yan Shifeng's storage ring. Intermediate king level magic whale, hunting lightning spear. An intermediate king-level secret technique, black lightning skeleton. Wait, this is the memory metal of the Soul Emperor's inheritance. Ling Xiao felt as if his breathing had stopped. He had thought that he had no fate with the Soul Emperor's inheritance. He never thought that he would find this in this old thing's storage ring. Throwing the rest to the side, Ling Xiao hurriedly picked up the memory metal, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. Yes, it really is the Soul Emperor's inheritance. Similar to the Ice Emperor's inheritance, the Soul Emperor's inheritance was divided into 4 parts: Immemorial Soul Emperor Art, Soul-Devouring Domain, Soul Kill, and the Soul-Devouring Wand. Since the Soul-Devouring Wand had already been obtained by Dark Frost, Ling Xiao naturally could not inherit it. However, he could still meditate on the first 3 abilities. The Immemorial Soul Emperor technique could perfectly cultivate one's soul force, making it easier to control. It could also make it easier to fuse true essence and soul power together. As for the Soul-Devouring Domain, Dark Frost had already used it. Within a certain range, in addition to causing soul deterrence, it could also increase the power of soul secret techniques. It could shorten the cooldown and casting time of soul secret techniques. Within the range of the Soul-Devouring Domain, soul secret techniques could be released from any corner of the domain, not from the position of the martial artist. In this way, it would be even more difficult for the enemy to resist. Soul Kill was not a movement skill, but a sure kill skill. It could suddenly erupt with powerful soul power, causing a devastating blow to the enemy's soul. Its power was related to the martial artist's own soul power. These 3 abilities were undoubtedly a great supplement to Ling Xiao's fighting strength. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao no longer hesitated and began to immerse himself in cultivation. Because he had already meditated on the Ice Emperor's inheritance, Ling Xiao's soul power was extremely powerful. In just 3 days, he had thoroughly comprehended these 3 abilities. The only thing he lacked was actual combat. On the morning of the 4th day, Dark Frost came again. This time, Dark Frost brought the exquisite sword. This exquisite sword was held by a neutral martial artist who came to the green zone. Dark Frost had spent a high price to buy it. Ling Xiao already had the exquisite 7 ingenious jade. Now that he had the exquisite sword, he could cultivate the exquisite sword art. In this way, he would be able to learn 5 sword techniques. When the 5 swords combined, his attack power would increase by 25 times. However, this made it even more urgent for him to improve his cultivation base. If his cultivation base could not reach the 9th level of life seizing, even if he cultivated the 5 sword techniques, he would not be able to combine them. As he thought of this, he resisted the urge and spent an hour to master the celestial Linglong sword technique. Then he walked out of the room. For him, improving his cultivation base was, of course, the fastest way to do so was to go out and fight. Although the Undying King was no longer in the meteorite domain, and the monsters were not as fierce as before. However, there were still some powerful monsters. For him, the heaven-seizing fate-exchanging monsters could help him improve his cultivation base as quickly as possible. Ling Xiao's cultivation speed was already very fast, and with the help of the Frigid General's memory metal, it was only natural that it would be even faster. Before the God Devil Invitational began, reaching the 9th level of life seizing was not impossible. Chapter 34-32. To be honest, it had only been a few months since Ling Xiao had seen Yu Fanghua being taken away by the Palace of Eternal Life. In just a few months, Ling Xiao had gone from being a nobody in the Yinyang realm to a peak existence in the life-seizing realm. It was like a myth, other than the former human kings. No one could be faster than him, but he still couldn't be satisfied. When he thought about what might happen to Yu Fanghua, he couldn't help but feel anxious. After all, his opponents were experts from the Palace of Eternal Life. Not only did he want to surpass his peers, but he also wanted to surpass the experts of the older generation. Without a crazy cultivation speed, it was impossible. Palace of Eternal Life, in my eyes, you're just a stumbling block on my path. But since you dared to provoke me, I'll crush you completely. Today, you looked down on me and took my woman away from me. Tomorrow, I'll let you know what regret is. Stepping out of the Soul Hall, Ling Xiao walked out of the green zone, his heart burning with a strong desire to fight. Before leaving, he left a note for Dark Frost. The main reason was that he didn't want to stay under Dark Frost's protection. Otherwise, How could he have broken through? From then on, a crazy figure appeared outside the green zone. From east to west, and from west to east, Ling Xiao fought almost every day, tirelessly. He had no interest in fighting monsters who were weaker than him. Of course, if they wanted to die, he didn't mind killing a few more. The monsters he fought were all in the heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm. In any case, there were no reincarnation god realm monsters in the meteorite zone, so he had nothing to worry about. Day after day he fought boring battles. Although it was boring, it was very helpful to Ling Xiao's cultivation. During the battles, he repeatedly used the various martial skills and secret techniques he cultivated, allowing them to rise in level. He had also cultivated Yan Shifeng's intermediate king level secret techniques, the whale-hunting lightning spear and the black lightning skeleton. He gave up on the desolate sword art and devil lightning art. Now, king-level martial skills were no longer attractive to him. As Ling Xiao cultivated and fought without any regard for his life, the number of life crystals in his storage ring increased. At the same time, his strength was also increasing rapidly. The energy in his sea of cultivation had reached 90%, but he had basically wiped out all the powerful monsters in the meteorite zone. Even if he wanted to look for it, he couldn't find it anymore. This process lasted for a total of 7 days. On the 10th day, he planned to return to Soul Palace and inform Darkfrost. Then he would head to other regions and continue to find powerful opponents to fight. But on this day, he felt that he was being watched by something. The other party was very strong. At the very least, he felt that the other party was not weaker than those life-snatching realm monsters. This guy was about 1,000 meters away from him and had been watching his every move. This made Ling Xiao feel very strange. Soul Palace was now under Darkfrost's control. Who was it that dared to cause trouble for him at this time? Could it be Lung Chuyan? No, this doesn't feel right. Ling Xiao suddenly smiled. Why did he think so much? Since the other party's target was him, he might as well make the first move. Thinking of this, he suddenly disappeared from where he was. In the woods 1,000 meters away, Demon Eye King stared at the young man in the distance. There was no mistake. That was the murderer who killed Big Brother and caused Third Sister to be seriously injured and only recently recovered. Fourth Brother Dragon Shark King was also depressed and had been in seclusion for a long time. They searched all over the Greenwood Zone and the Glacier Zone, but they couldn't find this guy named Ling Xiao. So they finally set foot in the meteorite zone. The meteorite zone was terrifying. This was known by all the martial artists of myriad countries. The martial artists of Heavenly Dynasty also knew. It was said that there was a powerful undead king in the meteorite zone, and even their mother dragon mother was very afraid of him. But after coming here, Demon Eye King realized that the rumors might not be true. There was no undead king here, and this place was not as dangerous as she imagined. She easily found the person she was looking for. Lord Demon Eye King, why don't you let us go and capture that kid? Of course, Demon Eye King hadn't come alone. She was much stronger than before, having reached the 9th stage of life seizing. But if it weren't for Demon Eye King, she wouldn't have been qualified to be one of the 4 kings of myriad countries. After recovering from her injuries, Third Sister had gained enlightenment and reached the heaven-seizing fate-exchanging level. Her 4th brother Dragon Shark King was even more powerful. Although he had lost the legacy of the Ice Emperor, he had unexpectedly acquired the legacy of the 7 Stars Battle Emperor. Although he was still in seclusion, it was highly likely that he would break through the final barrier and reach the reincarnation god level. Even if he couldn't break through, with the legacy of the 7 Stars Battle Emperor, he would be the strongest person under the age of 40 in the 4 major powers. Even Prince Tian might not be as strong as her 4th brother. It was precisely because it couldn't compare to its sister and brother's strength that when the Demon Eye King came out, it would always be accompanied by experts. And at the very least, they would be in the heaven-seizing fate-exchanging level. This time was no exception. The speaker had a very high position in the myriad countries, and was second only to Dragon Mother and the Four Kings. The title Duke. Just as Demon Eye King was about to speak, she suddenly realized that the young man was gone. That realization caused her to jump up in fright. She immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Be careful!" she shouted. But it was too late. Frigid domain. Dance of ghosts and gods. Ling Xiao's first attack was a wide-area attack. He wanted to get rid of the small fries to avoid further complications. Of Demon Eye King's subordinates, only the title Duke and the Count of the North Sea remained. The Count of the North Sea was at the peak of the 9th stage of life seizing. Although he wasn't as strong as the title Duke, he was still stronger than the small fries. And here I was wondering who it was. So it's the sea folk from the myriad countries. No wonder I could smell the fishy stench from so far away. Ling Xiao clasped his hands and hovered in midair. As of now, he wasn't afraid of these people. In fact, he was excited. Just when he was worried that he wouldn't have a worthy opponent, someone came knocking on his door. Ling Xiao. Demon Eye King gritted her teeth. "You're that Demon Eye King, right? You're quite pretty. Scram. Go back and tell your dragon mother that I won't hold a grudge against you for seizing the Ice Emperor's inheritance. But you'd better not mix with Prince Tian. That Prince Tian is someone I must kill." Ling Xiao said coldly, "Shut up, what an arrogant brat. You stole our Ice Emperor's inheritance and killed our Mirror Demon King. Are you planning to end it like this?" The Count of the North Sea roared. "What a joke. Isn't it common for people to die in treasure seizing? If I'm not as strong as them, then I'll be the one to die. What else do you want? I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm a guest of Soul Palace. If you become my enemy, you'll become the enemy of Soul Palace. When the two forces fight, the ones who will benefit from it will be others." Ling Xiao said in disdain. Chapter 34-33. To be honest, Ling Xiao didn't want to provoke a powerful enemy like Wanguo. But if the other party didn't know what to do, he had nothing to be afraid of. If he could destroy the inner hall of Soul Hall, he had a way to destroy Wanguo. After all, he was no longer the inexperienced person who had just entered the immemorial divine tomb. "Ha ha ha, you? How could Soul Hall accept a guest elder like you?" The North Sea Earl laughed and said to the Demon Eye Monarch, "Lord Demon Eye Monarch, this subordinate will take this dog's life." After saying that, he ignored the Demon Eye Monarch's dissuasion and rushed out. "Don't!" before the Demon Eye Monarch could say anything. The North Sea Earl's head fell to the ground. Ling Xiao didn't have time to talk. He wasn't afraid of these people. If these people didn't know what was good for them and insisted on being enemies with him, he didn't mind killing a few more. "You killed him." The Demon Eye Monarch's body trembled. Even her demon eye couldn't capture Ling Xiao's terrifying speed. The person in front of her was too terrifying. He was much more terrifying than the rumors. She couldn't fight against him at all. "That's right, I killed him because he was courting death." Ling Xiao just said indifferently, "Well, since you've already made your move, it won't be so easy to leave. What do you want to do?" The Demon Eye Monarch asked timidly. She really felt fear. From this Ling Xiao, she felt the same terrifying aura as the Koi King and even the Dragon Shark King. "Don't worry, although you look good. I'm not interested in sleeping with a fish. The one next to you, you have to fight with me. A life and death battle. You can use your strength as much as you want. As long as you do that, I'll let your Demon Eye Monarch go." Ling Xiao said indifferently. "Are you serious?" the Tide Duke asked. "Of course." Ling Xiao nodded. "Then can you let the Demon Eye Monarch leave now, and I'll stay and fight with you?" the Tide Duke asked again. "No problem." Ling Xiao wasn't afraid that the Tide Duke would run away. He had a barrier martial soul, and as long as the Tide Duke didn't kill him, he wouldn't be able to escape. After saying this, he released his sister's martial spirit and said to the demon eye emperor, "Get lost, girl. The deaths of these people today are only a lesson. People of Toto land, don't come looking for trouble with me again. Otherwise, I will definitely make you suffer. You know that's impossible. With Mother's temper, how could she possibly let herself be taken advantage of like this?" Demon Eye King smiled bitterly. "That's not my problem. My attitude is very simple. If you don't provoke me, I won't do anything to you. But if you insist on provoking me, then I'm sorry, I'll definitely let you know how terrifying death is." Ling Xiao waved his hand and said, "All right, I'm not interested in wasting words with you. You over there, Title Duke, right? Come fight me." The Demon Eye King hesitated for a long time as he watched the battle begin. Finally, he clenched his teeth and left. The young dragon of the past had now grown into a truly terrifying divine dragon. Perhaps Toto Land really shouldn't provoke such an existence. Right now, she only had one thought, and that was to persuade her mother to stop causing trouble for Ling Xiao. It's still not enough. Although the title Duke is strong, he can only increase the energy in my sea of cultivation to 99%. I'm still a little bit away from a breakthrough. Seeing the title Duke's dying appearance, Ling Xiao sighed and turned to leave. "Take it as a thank you for being my training partner. Get lost, I won't kill you. As for whether you can survive in the meteorite area, that's not my problem." After he finished speaking, he strode forward in large strides. "Wait. What? Do you have something else to say?" Ling Xiao turned around and asked, his face filled with killing intent. "The Heavenly Emperor Dynasty's people are already here. The Koi King is also among them. I believe they'll arrive soon. The emperors of the Ice Dynasty and Fire Dynasty are following Prince Tian. This time, they don't come with good intentions. Be careful." The title Duke knew that the other party could easily kill him, but they didn't. He didn't want to owe them a favor. "Thank you. Your information saved your life." Ling Xiao tossed him a pill and said, "Catch it. Take it and you'll recover 70% to 80%. It'll be easy for you to leave the meteorite area." After he finished speaking, he tore through the air and quickly disappeared at the end of the wasteland. Ling Xiao had to go back and inform Dark Frost to make preparations. The Heavenly Emperor Dynasty didn't come with good intentions. The title Duke looked at the pill and hesitated. In the end, he gritted his teeth and swallowed it. It really is a good pill. This Ling Xiao doesn't seem to be as evil as the rumors say. The title Duke shook his head. Seeing the approaching monsters, he stood up and walked in the opposite direction. Toto Land has already obtained the Sea God Emperors and the 7-star Battle Emperor's inheritances. Why should we be so obsessed with the Ice Emperor's inheritance? When we return, we should discuss this with Lord Dragon Mother. Soon, the title Duke also left. After Ling Xiao returned to the green area, he told Dark Frost about the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty. Dark Frost immediately organized people to defend. The green area was the Soul Palace's living area. It couldn't be destroyed by anyone. Just one day later, when Ling Xiao was familiarizing himself with Ice Age in his room, Do Hun hurriedly came over. "Young Hero Ling, the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty's people are here." "Oh? Take me there immediately." Ling Xiao put down Ice Age and stood up. He guessed that they would arrive in a few days, but he didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. It seemed that the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty was really greedy. They already had the Heavenly Sword Emperor's and Dragon Emperor's inheritances, but they still didn't give up. "Take you there." Dohun paused and said, "Young Hero Ling, the Palace Master said that you should just stay here. No matter what happens outside, don't go out. We can deal with the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty's people." Ling Xiao shook his head and said, "I knew that girl was going to be stubborn again. But I, Ling Xiao, am not the same as before. Even if Dragon Mother comes in person, I won't be afraid. How can I let you suffer for me? Let's go. I have to deal with this matter personally." Yesterday, he heard from the titled Duke that the Koi King also came with the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty's people. They were probably here to take revenge. And that Prince Tian, given the current situation, he really wanted to try and see if he could use this opportunity to call Ling Xiao back. Although Ling Xiao was still very safe, he was still in the enemy's territory. Who knew if something would happen to him? At that time, he thought of that method because he wasn't strong enough. But now his strength was not the same as before. If he fought with the Heavenly Emperor again, he might not lose. All right, young hero, follow me. Do Hun knew that even if he stopped him, it would be useless. With Ling Xiao's ability, it would be easy for him to find the whereabouts of those people. Chapter 34-34. The most important thing was that this group of people was very ostentatious when they came. It was impossible not to find them. Just as he left the room, Ling Xiao had already opened his Tai Chi eye. From afar, he could see that there were close to 10,000 martial artists outside the entrance of the Green Zone. Among them, there were martial artists from the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty and also martial artists from the myriad countries, excluding the miscellaneous fish. Ling Xiao saw a few familiar faces in the crowd. Koi King, Demon Eye King, titled Duke. Of course, there was also that Prince Tian, the Prince Tian that he had always wanted to kill. Apart from Prince Tian, the Ice Dynasty's King Mo Li and the Fire Dynasty's King Zhu Chang were also there. There was another person whose aura was incomparably powerful. It was just that his entire body was wrapped in a black robe, not revealing his true appearance. But Ling Xiao believed that his strength was probably not inferior to Dark Frost, probably the most powerful backer behind the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty. Ling Xiao did not know this person, but he knew that this person was the most powerful person in the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty. Fortunately, there was only this one, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Dragon Mother did not appear. She probably still needed to hold down the fort in the Glacier District. On the Soul Palace's side, there were naturally not as many experts as before. After all, the inner palace had been destroyed. Now, Dark Frost, Wind Soul, and War Soul led thousands of martial artists in the outer palace to form a defense, confronting the close to 10,000 people outside. The neutral martial artists in the Green Zone all maintained neutrality and did not help each other, preparing to watch the show. At this time, they were also a little nervous in their hearts. The Heavenly Emperor Dynasty came to the Green Zone in such a grand manner. They were definitely not here to drink tea. Ling Xiao noticed that Ling Xiao was standing beside Prince Tian. It was just that his hands and feet were shackled like a prisoner. Ling Xiao's aura was clearly much stronger than before, probably after obtaining the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Prince Tian also used a lot of treasures to help him improve. As a result, Ling Xiao's current strength had already soared to the heaven-changing fate realm. His cultivation was even higher than Ling Xiao's. Originally, this was something to be happy about, but seeing Ling Xiao's restrained appearance, a ball of anger burned in Ling Xiao's heart. He also blamed himself a little. Back then, he had sent Ling Xiao as a spy because he wasn't strong enough. But how could Prince Tian be so easily deceived? Even if he was tricked, the expert behind him wouldn't. The handcuffs and shackles were obviously not simple. No, I can't let Ling Xiao stay by that guy's side any longer. Otherwise, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth. No matter what, he had already decided that he would take Ling Xiao back today. Boss, don't be rash. Because a trace of Ling Xiao's origin soul was in Ling Xiao's soul realm, Ling Xiao was naturally able to sense Ling Xiao's thoughts at such a close distance. Furthermore, he could even converse with him at the soul level. What is it? Ling Xiao said in surprise. Do you think I can't defeat Prince Tian? Even if I can't defeat him, with Dark Frost around, it won't be a problem. That's not the problem. Ling Xiao said, although I'm handcuffed, to be honest, I don't care. Right now, whether it's Prince Tian or that mysterious expert, they both think I'm completely under their control. But they don't know that relying on your origin soul, I've been able to break their soul assimilation secret technique many times. Now, they're giving me large amounts of resources to cultivate every day. Furthermore, I've also obtained a lot of information from them. Boss, you don't have to worry about me. I'm not that bad right now. During the God and Devil Invitational Tournament, they will give me a spot. Once I get this spot, I will be able to join the tournament. Once I've obtained the spot, we'll enter the ancient sword Imperial tomb together and kill Prince Tian and the Koi King. Wouldn't that be easier? But are you sure you'll be fine? Ling Xiao said with uncertainty. To be honest, I'm a little regretful of my decision back then. I've never regretted anything I've done in the past. Then don't regret it now. Boss, you're doing the right thing. If I had followed you back then, I'm afraid I would have been killed by now. But according to your plan, not only did I not die, but I also became incomparably strong. The stronger I am, the more I can help you, boss. Don't worry, the God-Devil Invitational Tournament is only 20 days away. Boss, you can't wait, right? Don't tell me you've fallen in love with me. Long Chin said with a smile. Scram, I'm not interested in that. But hearing that you can joke around, I'm relieved. It seems like you're really not doing too badly. All right, then we'll do as you say. But if there's any danger, immediately notify me. The current Palace Master of Soul Palace is your boss's younger sister. Ling Xiao said, Boss, you're really awesome. How many days have been since we last met? You've already hooked up with another one? Long Chin was shocked. Hooked up my ass. Your boss's charm is called charm. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. I'll be at the door soon. After Ling Xiao finished speaking, he jumped onto the city wall and stood together with Dark Frost. The instant the Koi King saw Ling Xiao, a surge of resentment erupted. He simply wanted to charge up and tear Ling Xiao to shreds. Calm down, Koi King, Prince Tian said. Let's wait and see how Mo Li and Zhu Chang's negotiations go. I can sense that the kid's aura is already in the 8th stratum of the life-seizing level. It's only been a short time since we last met, but his cultivation base has already risen to such a terrifying level. Not even the legacy of the frigid ice general could do something like that. That just goes to show how terrifyingly talented he is. You were right, Koi King. We can't let this kid live. He'll be a disaster sooner or later. Even as the words left his mouth, Prince Tian's eyes flashed with cold light. However, he was very pleased with the fact that he had taken Ling Xiao's powerful dragon folk descendant. All he had to do was wait a bit longer to wear down the dragon's humanity, and then he could use him as a mount. That was when the dragon riders of the primeval age would be born. Furthermore, he would be much stronger than before. This was undoubtedly the most wonderful thing. Even as Prince Tian was lost in thought, Emperor Zhu Chang of the Fire Dynasty clasped hands and said, Palace Master Dark Frost, didn't you say that there was no one named Ling Xiao in the Green Quarter? Then who is he? If I say there isn't one, then there isn't one. He's my brother, Dark Frost said. Then she looked at Ling Xiao and complained, Brother, didn't I tell you to stay in your room? I'll help you deal with this bunch of rotten fish and prawns. Ming Shuang, I appreciate your kind intentions, but I'm a man. Even if I can't beat them, I'll still be able to fight them. If I don't even dare to show my face, then I'll be too cowardly. Don't worry. Other than that black-robed man, it won't be easy for anyone else to hurt me, let alone kill me. Now that the soul hall is weak, I can't just stand by and watch. Ling Xiao patted Darkfrost's head and smiled. This scene frightened the people outside the city quite a bit. They had long heard of how terrifying the Soul Hall's Palace Master Darkfrost was. Now, someone actually dared to pat her head? That kid was dead meat. However, the blood that they had imagined did not splatter. Instead, they saw Darkfrost's shy smile. What the hell? It's broad daylight. Zhu Chang and Mo Li looked at each other, their faces full of confusion and shock. Chapter 34-35. Cough, cough. Palace Master Darkfrost. I know that the little thief is handsome, but you need to know that he is a despicable person. In the glacier area, he stole the inheritance of Wan Gua's ice general while the Koi King was fighting with others. Then he sneaked into the Ice Emperor's ancient tomb and stole the Ice Emperor's inheritance. That is also something that belongs to Wan Gua. We came to the green area today with no intention of fighting with Soul Palace. We just want to take back Wan Gua's things. Seeing Darkfrost being so obedient in front of Ling Xiao, Ice Dynasty's Emperor Mo, Li clearly misunderstood something. He thought that Darkfrost had taken a fancy to Ling Xiao's appearance. But then again, Ling Xiao was really handsome, although he was not a gigolo. But the man's heroic spirit was perfectly reflected. You talk about Wan Gua left and right. Why didn't that old woman dragon mother come? Who do you think you are to talk to me? Darkfrost's domineering attitude surprised Ling Xiao. The dignified Ice Dynasty's Emperor's true strength was already at the heaven-changing fate realm, not inferior to Yama at all. But in Darkfrost's eyes, it was not worth mentioning at all. Mo Li's expression changed again and again, but in the end he did not dare to get angry. Darkfrost was a reincarnation god, realm expert. She knew very well what the result would be once she made a move. Palace Master Darkfrost, Dragon Mother has already entrusted my Heavenly King Dynasty to handle this matter. She even specially sent the Koi King and the Demon Eye King to assist. She gritted her teeth and said, "So what? That old woman didn't come herself and let you stinky fish and shrimps make up the numbers? Before I get angry, you'd better disappear from my eyes. Otherwise, no matter how many people come today, I'll kill them all." Darkfrost's attitude was still as domineering as before. I wonder if Grand Elder Yan Shifeng is here. How about letting him come out and talk? The Fire Dynasty's Emperor Zhu Chong suddenly said. In fact, everyone in the outside world knew very well that Darkfrost was just a sign of Soul Palace, a super thug. In Soul Palace, the one who truly held power was Yan Shifeng. Therefore, he didn't want to waste time talking to Darkfrost. Instead, he wanted to talk to Yan Shifeng directly. That old thing is already dead. This time, it wasn't Darkfrost who spoke, but Ling Xiao. How dare you? I'm talking to Hall Master Darkfrost. Since when did a piece of trash like you have the right to interrupt? Zhu Chong roared. You're the bold one. How dare you speak to my big brother Ling Xiao like that in my territory? Are you courting death? Darkfrost roared angrily. A huge, ghostly hand appeared in the air and slammed towards Zhu Chong. Zhu Chong had no time to dodge, but he couldn't resist it either. They could only wait for death. This was the terrifying suppression of martial artists in the reincarnation divine realm against martial artists in the environment of many heavens. Moreover, Darkfrost was a third-level reincarnation divine realm expert. Zhu Chong was like a child in front of her. Boom! Just when Zhu Chong thought that he was dead for sure, a black shadow appeared in front of him and blocked the ghostly hand. It was the black-robed man who had been silent all this time. You're that heavenly king who can't see the light of day, right? Darkfrost looked at the black-robed man and said. The black-robed man didn't answer. Instead, he said directly, Hall Master Darkfrost, good move, good strength. But for a mere Ling Xiao, does Soul Hall really plan to become enemies with my Heavenly King Dynasty? So what if I plan to become enemies with your Heavenly King Dynasty? Darkfrost sneered. The black-robed man frowned. Obviously, he didn't expect to encounter such a situation. When they came to the green zone this time, they thought of two possibilities. The first was to make a deal with Yan Shifeng and obtain Ling Xiao. The second was to threaten Soul Hall to start a war. They believed that Soul Hall wouldn't become enemies with Heavenly King Dynasty for Ling Xiao. But obviously, both possibilities were wrong. Yan Shifeng didn't show up, so the deal couldn't be reached. And Soul Hall didn't seem to mind starting a war with Heavenly King Dynasty. What bullshit, Heavenly King Dynasty, it's already something in history. Your era has long passed. Do you really think you can scare others with your past prestige? Ling Xiao looked at the black-robed man and said, I just heard Darkfrost say that you're some heavenly king? I think it's more like Turtle King. If you have the ability, why don't you go find trouble with the Heavenly King sect? Coward! Hearing this, everyone was incomparably shocked, especially those Heavenly King dynasty martial artists who came personally with the Heavenly King. All of their eyeballs were about to pop out. Just what kind of thing was Ling Xiao to actually dare speak to their Heavenly King like that? Was he courting death? Brat, say that again? The Heavenly King looked coldly at the daring Ling Xiao, killing intent flashing in his eyes. To be honest, he had never taken this crafty brat to heart. But today he had no choice but to look at this brat in the eye and listen to what this brat had to say. Because Darkfrost was there, even he couldn't kill Ling Xiao. So what if I said, you old turtle, son of a bitch, gutless coward, only knowing how to bully the weak and fear the strong. It's a pity that your grandfather... I'm really not a pushover. You can't pinch me. Ling Xiao was not afraid of this Heavenly King at all. Although this Heavenly King was very powerful, with Darkfrost around, he had no need to fear at all. The Heavenly King's expression instantly became extremely ugly. He suddenly exploded, charging towards Ling Xiao. But it was also, as he expected, Darkfrost made a move. He could not get close to Ling Xiao at all. However, at this time, the Fire Dynasty's Emperor, Zhu Chang, who suffered a hidden loss from Darkfrost previously, took the opportunity to charge towards Ling Xiao. Either way, the Soul Hall only had one Darkfrost. With the Heavenly King blocking there, what was he afraid of? Really think that my Soul Hall has no one. Wind Soul rose into the air, several wind blades suddenly forming above his head, blasting towards Zhu Chang. The two of them were evenly matched in strength. Zhu Chang had no choice but to block this attack. However, at this moment, Ling Xiao moved. Choosing the perfect opportunity to attack, the whale-hunting lightning spear directly pierced through Zhu Chang's heart. This was a mid-general level secret technique. How could Zhu Chang expect that he would be ambushed while fighting with Wind Soul? Moreover, the person who ambushed him was actually Ling Xiao, whom he looked down on. At the moment before his death, his eyes were wide open, as if he could not believe that this was real. The others from the Heavenly King dynasty did not believe it either. It was only when Zhu Chang's body fell to the ground outside the city that they realized that this was not an illusion, but the truth. Zhu Chang was indeed dead, and he was killed by Ling Xiao. Although it was a sneak attack, the whale-hunting lightning spear just now was used perfectly, and it was also very terrifying. Did you kill Zhu Chang? The Heavenly King stopped fighting with Darkfrost and retreated into the formation. He originally wanted to entangle Darkfrost and let the others launch a sneak attack on Ling Xiao. Who knew that this would be the result? That's right, I killed him. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, Do you think that I, Ling Xiao, rely on trickery and trickery? Ridiculous. Koi King, you are one of the 4 kings of the Myriad Kingdom after all. Are you also shameless? If the Dragon Shark King had not appeared in time, you trash would have been killed by me. Now you still have the face to look down on me? The Koi King had no words to refute. Although Ling Xiao should have used some kind of secret technique to increase his strength to defeat her at that time, a defeat was a defeat. There was no doubt about this. Whether she admitted it or not, it was the same. Chapter 34-36. You don't dare to speak? All right, then I'll speak. You keep saying that I stole something from Wangua? What a joke. In this immemorial divine tomb, there are thousands of treasures, all of which are ownerless. Whoever gets it belongs to whoever gets it. The 2 treasures that I seized with my own ability are mine. How dare Tato Land say that I snatched something from you? Could it be that this immemorial divine tomb was opened by your Wangua? Or is it your Heavenly Emperor dynasty? Do you dare to say that? Even the owner of the god-devil token did not dare to say such words. If you want to take the 2 treasures from me, just say it. Why are you so hypocritical and play the role of a righteous person? Aren't you ashamed? Ling Xiao's impassioned and sarcastic words made the faces of the people from Heavenly Emperor Dynasty and Wan would turn ugly. Although what he said was true, there weren't many who dared to say that in front of the Heavenly King. Even the people from Soul Palace were sweating for Ling Xiao. Although he had Dark Frost protection, there was always a chance. Those neutral martial artists found it interesting. They liked to see Ling Xiao fight with those self-righteous old fellows. Previously it was Yan Shifeng, now it was the Heavenly King. Since you understand so well, then it's easy to talk about it. The Heavenly King didn't seem to care about his face anymore. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, what was the use of face? He looked at Ling Xiao coldly and said, "That's right, we came here this time to seize the Ice Emperor's inheritance and the Ice General's inheritance from you. If you know what's good for you, hand it over. Otherwise, with this army of tens of thousands attacking the Green Zone, I believe that Soul Palace will not take such a huge risk for you alone. At that time, your tragedy will come. In other words, you think that my strength is weaker than yours, so you plan to take the 2 treasures from me?" Ling Xiao asked. "Not bad, you're quite smart. How about it? For the sake of everyone, you should know what to do, right?" The Heavenly King thought that he had scared Ling Xiao and said proudly, "I do. That is to slaughter all the Sky Emperor Dynasty martial artists who came here today." Ling Xiao said indifferently, "There are some things you don't have a choice about. The Sky Emperor Dynasty martial artists who came here today were here for him. Even if he didn't want to kill him, it was impossible, unless he gave them what they wanted, or he died. However, he was not a coward. Since the other party was being unreasonable, there was no need for him to be reasonable. Everyone should just fight. Let's see who's stronger." "You?" The Heavenly Monarch sneered and said, "It's not that this old man is looking down on you, but with your strength you can only rank below average in my Sky Dynasty. In my Heavenly Emperor Dynasty, there are many people who can kill you." "You're not talking about Zhu Chang, are you?" Ling Xiao said sarcastically, "I think the Fire Dynasty's Emperor Zhu Chang's strength should be at the peak of the Heavenly King Dynasty. Other than those who had not broken through to the Reincarnation Divine Realm, it was likely that the others were really not his match. He's already dead, yet you're still boasting shamelessly. Have you gone senile? You're impudent." Suddenly, the Heavenly Monarch released a terrifying aura without any warning, rumbling towards Ling Xiao. Dark Frost attempted to block it for Ling Xiao, but was stopped by Ling Xiao. "It's not a frontal attack. Just this kind of pure aura pressure is not enough to hurt me." Actually, Ling Xiao was wild with joy in his heart. The Heavenly Monarch's aura was terrifying to the extreme. So much so that it pressed space until it distorted and deformed. The city walls also began to collapse. The bricks shattered. But it was precisely this kind of terrifying pressure that made the potential in Ling Xiao's body sense danger and started to vent crazily. A large amount of potential was released, making Ling Xiao's cultivation sea energy start to rise again. Such a good opportunity. How could Ling Xiao possibly miss it? Hence, he did not let Dark Frost help. Courting death. Originally, the Heavenly Monarch thought that this move of his would not work, because Dark Frost would definitely intervene. Who knew that this time, Dark Frost actually did not make a move at all. The Heavenly Monarch was overjoyed. Although he couldn't destroy Ling Xiao, the two of them were vastly different. However, there was a huge gap between their cultivations. He believed that he could definitely suppress Ling Xiao with his aura alone. An even more terrifying aura surged out of him. Sand and pebbles began to swirl around him. Rumble. The city walls finally collapsed. The martial artist from the Hall of Souls, near Ling Xiao, had long since fled, leaving only Dark Frost standing there, her expression the same as ever. And yet, despite the terrifying pressure, Ling Xiao didn't even frown. His body glowed with earthen yellow light, within which was the vague image of a black turtle. Ling Xiao wasn't using any of his true energy. With the strength of his fleshly body and the potential within him, he was able to stand up to the Heavenly Monarch's aura. The Heavenly Monarch's delight turned into shock. He simply couldn't believe that a measly 8th Division life-sizer could stand up to him like Mount Tai. "Good lad, it seems that this old man has really underestimated you. But do you really think that's enough to stand up to my power? Heaven's word, slaughter domain." Finally, the Heavenly Monarch unleashed the Heaven's word, slaughter domain, one of the legacies of the Heaven's word Emperor. The Heaven's word, slaughter domain had many uses, but the most important was that it could strengthen a martial artist's aura. The Heavenly Monarch's purpose in unleashing the Heaven's word, slaughter domain, was to intimidate Ling Xiao, not to attack. This was because he realized that if he took the initiative to attack, he would be stopped by Ming Xuan again. Rumble. It was as if heaven and earth had become a world of swords. Killing intent surged. The terrifying aura stirred up a cloud of dust. It was as terrifying as a typhoon. However, when the dust settled, Ling Xiao was still standing there, a faint smile on his face. The Heavenly Monarch was sure that Dark Frost hadn't attacked. How had Ling Xiao managed to resist the Heaven's word, slaughter domain's aura? The Heavenly Monarch couldn't understand. "Have you gone senile, Heavenly Monarch? You have the Heaven's word, slaughter domain, and I have the frigid domain. If you can strengthen your aura, why can't I?" As soon as Ling Xiao's cold voice rang out, everyone realized what was going on. However, something didn't seem right. Ling Xiao's cultivation base was far below the Heavenly Monarch's. Even if he could unleash the frigid domain, how could he possibly stand up to the Heavenly Monarch's aura? Actually, their suspicions were reasonable. In that moment, Ling Xiao had unleashed the aura of his tyrannical heaven martial soul. The tyrannical heaven martial soul represented the profound heaven universe. No matter how strong the Heavenly Monarch's aura was, he would be powerless in front of it. "I've finally reached 100%. All I need is an opportunity to reach the 9th level of life seizing." Ling Xiao was very happy. Although it had been a bit risky, it was definitely worth it. "Get on your knees, you bastard!" The Heavenly Monarch roared, his aura surging. And yet Ling Xiao didn't break. Although he was swaying back and forth like bamboo in the wind, he didn't break. Nor did he fall to the ground. "Get on my knees? You think too highly of yourself. A has-been Heavenly Monarch is worse than a dog. Only trash like him would kneel to you. I, Ling Xiao, am not that cheap." Ling Xiao sneered. Chapter 34-37. Ling Xiao was actually speaking calmly amidst the violent winds and huge waves. This made the Heavenly King feel incomparably humiliated. He also felt waves of anger. The Soul Hall martial artists laughed, loudly following Ling Xiao's mocking voice. What has been Heavenly King, inferior to a dog? Truly inferior to a dog. In any case, this Sky Dynasty clearly did not give their Soul Hall any face, so why should they give face to this old thing, the Heavenly King? Such mockery and laughter made the Heavenly King's face become increasingly gloomy, like ink. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the first time he personally set out to handle this matter would actually be such a failure. Unable to fight, unable to intimidate Ling Xiao with his aura, the Heavenly King's old face could be considered completely lost today. Fortunately, he did not show his face, only wrapped in that pitch-black robe, completely concealing his true appearance. Otherwise, it would probably be even more embarrassing. "Dark Frost, what on earth are you trying to do? Do you really plan to become enemies with my Heavenly King dynasty?" The Heavenly King's eyes were filled with anger. Even if he was usually calm and composed, today he somewhat could not control the killing intent in his heart. Dark Frost was clearly deliberately protecting Ling Xiao. Even a fool could see this. If he did not solve the problem of Dark Frost, wanting to kill Ling Xiao today was simply a fool's dream. Is your Heavenly King dynasty very impressive? I remember that other than the Heavenly King, doesn't the Heavenly King dynasty still have a King Zhong? Why didn't I see him today? Is he hiding? Or do you think that my soul hall is not qualified to have two kings appear at the same time? Dark Frost said in a clear voice, "Ha ha ha ha, worthy of being the soul hall's hall master. This king was originally unwilling to show his face, but I didn't expect that he was still detected by you." Amidst the loud laughter, a door appeared in the void, and a person walked out of the door. His age looked to be only 30 or 40 years old, but his strength should not be weaker than the Heavenly King. The Heavenly King alone might not be Darkfrost's match, but if he joined forces with King Zhong, it was really hard to say. For the first time, Ling Xiao frowned. He really did not detect this King Zhong. Since Palace Master Darkfrost has seen through our plan, let's cut to the chase. Today, we don't want Ling Xiao's life. He just needs to hand over the memory metal of the Ice Emperor's inheritance. As for whether or not he has comprehended the Ice Emperor's inheritance, we will not pursue it any further. As for the inheritance of the Frost General, we don't have to care about it. Prince Zhong was clearly calmer than the Heavenly King. The Heavenly King didn't say anything at this time, as if he was willing to listen to Prince Zhong solve this problem. Darkfrost sneered. "It sounds like you've suffered a great loss. Do you really think you can eat my soul palace? Today I'll say it right here. My big brother Ling Xiao is right here. Whoever dares to touch him, I'll take their life. As for the Ice Emperor's legacy that you want, that will depend on whether you have the ability to do so. Actually, I've long wanted to experience Heavenly King and Prince Zhong's skills, but unfortunately I never had the chance." Hearing this, Prince Zhong's brows furrowed. He felt that he had already given Darkfrost enough face, but now it still didn't seem to make sense. It could be seen that not only did Darkfrost want to protect Ling Xiao, but she also wanted to protect the Ice Emperor's inheritance. Made sense. It was impossible for any major faction to easily hand over the ancient Emperor's inheritance after obtaining it. "Prince Zhong, why is there a need to talk nonsense with that girl? She's already steeled her heart to protect that Ling Xiao. Why don't you and I join hands and eliminate her?" The Heavenly King's temper was clearly more irritable. To him, there was already nothing much to say about this matter. As long as he killed Darkfrost, wouldn't Ling Xiao be at their disposal? Big brother, wait a moment. What Prince Zhong thought was more than the Heavenly King. He did not know what happened in the Green Zone, and also did not know if Yan Shifeng was really dead. Furthermore, it was rumored that the Soul Palace still had 3 old, undying fellows alive. If they really fought head-on, they might not be able to gain anything. One had to know in the entire Western region, the strongest were the Soul Palace and myriad countries. Their Heavenly King dynasty could not compare to these two at all. The Heavenly King forcefully suppressed his anger and nodded. Normally, he was still more willing to listen to the words of his second brother, Prince Zhong. It was the same today. Hall Master Darkfrost, Ling Xiao is merely a nobody. Are you really going to let the 2 major factions of the Western region fight to the death for him? Prince Zhong looked at Darkfrost and said coldly, "Firstly, whether Big Brother Ling Xiao is a nobody or not, it's not up to you guys to decide. If he's considered a nobody, then what are the Mirror Devil King and the Koi King who were defeated by him? Trash? Secondly, even if Big Brother Ling Xiao is really a nobody, so what? He's my brother now. If you guys want to touch him, you're making an enemy of me." Darkfrost's attitude was very clear. There was no hesitation or wavering at all. Hall Master Darkfrost, doing this doesn't seem appropriate, right? For this person, you want to sacrifice the entire Soul Palace? Prince Zhong said again, "Tell me, is it worth it for Big Brother Ling Xiao?" Darkfrost said loudly, "It's worth it." Only the outer palace martial artists were left of the Soul Palace. These people revered Dark Frost and thanked Ling Xiao for saving them from the abyss of suffering. Therefore, there was nothing to say about Ling Xiao. In order to protect Ling Xiao, they were willing to fight. Dark Frost smiled at Prince Zhong and said, "If the two of you aren't completely senile, you should be able to understand what they're saying, right? Ling Xiao is not only my benefactor, he's also the entire Soul Palace's benefactor. He's not only the highest guest elder of my Soul Palace, he's also my Soul Palace's benefactor. If my Soul Palace gives up on him because of a few threats from your Heavenly Emperor dynasty, how will my Soul Palace establish itself in the Western region in the future?" At this point, Dark Frost's voice suddenly turned cold. "Telling you guys to scram is already giving you face. Since you guys don't understand human language and aren't willing to scram, then I'll let you know. Next, I'll let you guys understand the consequences of offending my Soul Palace and offending me. Dark Frost, Soul-Devouring Domain." Dark Frost released the Soul-Devouring Domain. In an instant, it filled the entire battlefield and enveloped everyone from the Heavenly Emperor dynasty. At that moment, even Prince Zhong and the Heavenly Emperor had solemn expressions. There was no need to talk about the rest. Most of them collapsed on the ground, trembling in fear. Even Prince Tian and the Koi King knelt on one knee, their faces filled with anger and fear. Although Dark Frost still showed mercy in the end and didn't kill anyone, this kind of intimidation caused the arrogant Heavenly Emperor dynasty martial artists to completely wilt. "Palace Master is mighty. Heavenly Emperor dynasty's grandsons, come and fight if you have the ability. How can my Soul Palace be afraid of you? We swear to protect Soul Palace with our lives. We swear to protect our benefactor's life with our lives. Kill, kill, kill." Although there weren't many people left in Soul Palace, they were more united than before. In a sense, the current Soul Palace was actually stronger than before. Seeing this scene, Prince Zhong and the Heavenly Emperor both frowned. In their impression, the relationship between Soul Palace's inner palace and outer palace had always been at odds. How did they become so united now? It was truly puzzling. However, the others wouldn't think so much. Many Heavenly Emperor dynasty martial artists were already filled with righteous indignation. Chapter 34-38. How could they not be angry when they were insulted by Ling Xiao and the people of Soul Palace? If not for the fact that King Zhong and the Heavenly King had not given the order, they would have started fighting. Originally, they came to the Green Zone with the purpose of starting a war. Ling Xiao was glad that he had killed all the people in the inner palace. Otherwise, there would not be a situation where they supported him. Many of those fellows in the inner palace wished for him to die. "Girl, can you stop King Zhong and the Heavenly King?" Ling Xiao suddenly asked in a low voice. "No problem." Dark Frost nodded confidently. The Heavenly King's cultivation should be at the second level of the reincarnation divine realm. Both of them are not as strong as me. Not to mention stopping them. As long as I fight well, winning won't be a problem. All right, since that's the case, I won't be polite. There are too many of them, and it will be troublesome in the end. Today, let's eliminate them at a fixed location. After confirming Dark Frost's opinion, Ling Xiao looked at the people of the Heavenly King dynasty and said, "A bunch of cowards without balls. Since you want the Ice Empress inheritance, just come and take it. If I even frown, then I'll kill you. If I frown, I won't be Ling Xiao. Zhu Chang has been killed, but you guys don't even dare to move. Let me ask the two kings of the Heavenly King dynasty, do you have anything below? Are you all eunuchs? Show some manliness." Ling Xiao's sarcasm and provocation only had one purpose, and that was to fight with the other party. Take the opportunity to get rid of those small fries. Don't underestimate these small fries. When they reached the Western region, they were all experts. For the future of the 8 Immortals country, he had to make preparations early. Of course, if he could take the opportunity to kill 1 or 2 big fishes like Zhu Chang, it would be good too. His words were really ear-piercing. Normally, people with a bit of temper would not be able to stand it. Furthermore, people's tempers were not very good these days, and they were all more irritable. The pressure of survival and life caused a ball of fire in everyone's body. This ball of fire was really easy to ignite. Bullshit! Finally, someone roared. That was Prince Tian. As the future successor of the Sky Emperor Empire, he possessed the inheritance of the Sky Sword Emperor and was known as the #1 person among the younger generation. Prince Tian had his own pride. How could he endure such humiliation? The rest of the people had ugly expressions on their faces. Their eyes were filled with anger, as if they wanted to tear Ling Xiao into pieces. Now that this brat has matured, he's actually becoming more and more arrogant and hateful, actually slandering the good men of my heavenly emperor dynasty. Everyone, tell me, should we kill him or not? The emperor roared. Kill! Countless people responded. At this time, the Heavenly Emperor dynasty's martial artists already threw King Zhong and Heavenly King to one side. Anger had completely blinded their minds, making it impossible for them to calm down and think about anything. Right now, they only wanted to kill Ling Xiao. Coupled with Prince Tian's shout, the fire in everyone's heart was ignited. Although the Koi King was not a member of the Celestial Dynasty, her expression was similarly ugly. She and Heavenly King Zhong were engaged to begin with. Furthermore, after what had happened in the past, she hated Ling Xiao to the bone, and didn't want to see him get so smug. Heavenly King Zhong didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with what he was saying. Given his temperament, since things had already reached this point, there was no way he could continue. There was no way he could continue the discussion. He simply could not endure such humiliation. King Zhong's expression wasn't very good either. If word got out that they were being humiliated by a member of the younger generation and didn't dare to do anything about it, how could they maintain their standing? People would think they were afraid of the Hall of Souls. It was at this point that a figure appeared next to King Zhong. It was a woman, and although her looks weren't particularly outstanding, she had an incomparable air about her. Lung Qiuyan. In that instant, Ling Xiao saw through this woman. His Tai Chi eye caught a trace of the woman's aura. There was no mistaking it. She really was Lung Qiuyan. Although she seemed to be in the 8th division of the life-seizing level after possessing this body, there was no mistaking it. But there was no mistaking it. Lung Qiuyan leaned over and whispered something into King Zhong's ear, causing him to look delighted. Are you telling the truth? Why would I lie? Who do you think I am? Lung Qiuyan said coolly. Good. Very good. So, the inner sanctum and outer sanctum are having internal strife. Now, the outer sanctum is the only one left. Earlier, King Zhong had been worried that the 3 old bastards would show up, but now he wasn't worried at all. Those 3 old bastards were from the inner sanctum. Even if they did show up, they would only view the outer sanctum as enemies. They would never make an enemy of the inner sanctum. Big brother, let's fight, King Zhong said. Today we'll destroy the Hall of Souls. Not only will we take the legacy of the Ice Emperor, but we'll also take the legacy of the Soul Emperor. King Zhong looked over at King Zhong. I was waiting for you to say that. Everyone heed my orders. Attack! King Zhong shouted, waving his hand. Girl, you hold those 2 back. I'll handle the others. Tell the Hall of Souls to guard the entrance. The spell formation I set up yesterday will make it impossible for them to break in. Ling Xiao looked over at Dark Frost, then suddenly vanished. Unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation. Shadow rabbit beast soul, shadow warrior. Of course, the best way to kill someone was to blend into the crowd. Seeing Ling Xiao vanish, Dark Frost charged forward. She headed directly toward King Zhong and King Zhong. It was at this point that the air suddenly filled with blood-red light. Bloodthirsty plague. Ling Xiao had unleashed the bloodthirsty plague as soon as he entered the crowd. Under the influence of the bloodthirsty plague, King Zhong and Heavenly King would be somewhat affected. Of course, the effect was small, but to Darkfrost, it was definitely going to be of some help. As for the others, they were even more miserable. In the blink of an eye, 6th or 7th stage life-seizers were killed by the bloodthirsty plague. The bloodthirsty plague wasn't just a divine ability used to weaken opponents. In essence, it was a continuous attack. Only when Ling Xiao was dealing with opponents stronger than him would he be able to weaken them. When dealing with opponents weaker than him, he would either die instantly or be tortured to death. 6th or 7th stage life-seizers were a far cry from Ling Xiao's unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation. Naturally, they would die instantly. As for 8th stage life-seizers, they would groan in pain and be on the verge of death. 9th stage life-seizers were a bit better off. They would have to expend 70 to 80% of their energy to keep the bloodthirsty plague under control. Life-seizers would have to expend 20 to 30% of their energy to keep the bloodthirsty plague under control. As for reincarnation deities, they might not even need to expend 10% of their energy, but they would still be weakened. After the bloodthirsty plague was the Shadow Warrior's assassination attempt. Ling Xiao was like a ghost, appearing and disappearing into the crowd. Every time he appeared, someone would be killed. Almost all of the victims were 9th stage life-seizers. Chapter 34-39. Dog Thief, you dare! Only now did King Zhong and Heavenly King realize what kind of mistake they had made. They had underestimated Ling Xiao too much. Apart from them, no one else present could restrain Ling Xiao in a short period of time. Even the Koi King and Prince Tian could not do it. Lung Chuyen had already fled. She understood how terrifying Ling Xiao was the most and knew that her current strength was not enough to contend with Ling Xiao. Therefore, when the battle began, she chose to slip away. Facing Heavenly King's roar, Ling Xiao completely ignored it and continued to kill decisively. Over there, Soul Hall's martial artists cheered and shouted. They originally thought that today's battle would be very difficult, but in reality, they had not been threatened at all. Heavenly King and King Zhong were already entangled by Darkfrost. Neither side could win in a short time. Although Prince Tian and the Koi King were anxious to restrain Ling Xiao, whether it was speed or eyesight, they were inferior to Ling Xiao. They could only stare, helplessly. Moreover, the two were also affected by the bloodthirsty rat plague. Their current combat strength was not at their peak. Retreat! Suddenly, King Zhong roared, "Retreat immediately!" He realized that today's underestimation of the enemy had caused them to make a big mistake. But as long as they protected the Koi King and Prince Tian, there was nothing to be afraid of. In the God-Fiend Invitational, Ling Xiao had no way of avoiding Prince Tian and the Koi King. He could only fight head-on. He did not believe that at that time Ling Xiao could still play this kind of trick. Ling Xiao, if you have the guts, fight me one-on-one. What kind of ability is bullying those weaklings? Although King Zhong and Heavenly King had already given the order to retreat, the Koi King was still indignant in her heart. She came this time to collect a debt. The encounter in the Ice Emperor's ancient tomb made her incomparably angry and embarrassed. Now that her cultivation had broken through, the first thing she thought of was to tear Ling Xiao into pieces. Do you want to die that much? Ling Xiao's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Koi King. His cold face revealed a mocking expression. You should be the one dying. When the Koi King saw Ling Xiao, he was immediately enraged. He raised his hand and blasted out a palm strike. He used his best beginner general realm martial arts technique. Petty tricks. Ling Xiao sneered disdainfully and also blasted out a palm. However, it was only a martial technique at the peak of the general realm, Ghost Deity Seal. Using a martial arts technique at the peak of the general level against a martial arts technique at the primary king level? Is that kid stupid? The Koi King had such a thought in his mind, but he did not say it out loud. Since Ling Xiao was courting death, There was no need for her to be polite. However, after the two of them collided, they were actually evenly matched. Both of them took 2 steps back before they could stand firm. What? The Koi King's expression changed drastically. He had used a primary king tier martial arts technique to attack his opponent, but his opponent had easily neutralized his attack with a peak general tier martial arts technique. When did this brat become so terrifying? It's not over yet. What are you spacing out for? Supreme Snake, Venomous Sky, Sword Art. Ling Xiao had completely treated the Koi King as his practice target and blasted out a primary king tier martial arts technique. The Koi King hastily responded. His strongest martial arts technique was the primary general tier. How could he block Ling Xiao's attack? A rumbling sound was heard. The Koi King's palm strike was shattered. The Supreme Snake Venomous Sky sword was like a dragon drilling into the Koi King's throat. Koi King, be careful! The one who attacked was Prince Tian. After all, the Koi King was his fiancée, and he had to protect her. Prince Tian was still stronger than the Koi King. After all, he had the Sky Sword inheritance, and naturally they could not be mentioned in the same breath. However, Prince Tian did not use the Sky Sword inheritance's attack method when he was dealing with Ling Xiao. Instead, he used his best beginner king tier martial arts technique. How much stronger do you think you are compared to her? When Ling Xiao saw that Prince Tian was blocking, he did not retreat. Instead, he struck out again. Ling Long's saintly celestial sword art. When both swords struck out, their power increased tenfold. So what if Prince Tian was stronger than the Koi King? The two-sword Qi merged into one and bombarded Prince Tian's sword. Prince Tian retreated in a sorry state. Not only did he fail to block the attack for the Koi King, but he also sent the Koi King flying. The two of them fell dozens of meters away. Damn it! Prince Tian felt humiliated. He was actually suppressed by Ling Xiao to this extent. How could he accept this? A terrifying power suddenly burst out from his body. It was clearly the power of the Sky Sword inheritance. All right, now is not the time. It won't be too late to deal with this kid when the God and Devil Invitational Tournament begins. At this moment, Heavenly King had already rushed over, grabbed Prince Tian and the Koi King and flew away. At the same time, King Zhong also grabbed the Demon Eye King and Long Qin to escape. They did not care about the rest of the people. For a moment, the Heavenly King Dynasty's army was in chaos. Those who were killed, and those who fled. Tens of thousands of people came, but less than 1,000 left alive. Outside the Green Zone city gate, a pile of corpses was thrown. Seeing this, Soul Hall's martial artists were extremely excited. The 4 major factions had always been competing and opposing each other in the Western region. Heavenly King Dynasty was trying to restore, and Soul Hall was also trying to rise. There was no lack of friction between the 2 factions, but all this time, Soul Hall had never gained any advantage. Due to internal disunity, Heavenly King Dynasty had taken advantage of them several times. Today, they were finally able to vent their anger. Under Ling Xiao and Dark Frost's heroic display, Heavenly King Dynasty's martial artists could only flee in a sorry state, leaving behind a pile of corpses. Now, at least in this immemorial divine tomb, Heavenly King Dynasty could no longer pose a threat to Soul Hall. Ling Xiao was thrown up by the people like a hero, and in the hearts of Soul Hall's martial artists, Ling Xiao's status was getting higher and higher. His image was also getting bigger. This also laid a very good foundation for the future merger of 8 Immortals Kingdom and Soul Hall. All right, stop messing around. Immediately repair the city wall. This green zone is our Soul Hall's stronghold. It can't be destroyed. Dark Frost saw that it was about time and ordered. Everyone naturally agreed without hesitation. Outside the city, only Ling Xiao and Dark Frost were left. Brother Ling Xiao, you're really something. You made those two old guys so angry that they almost vomited blood. They came all the way here for your Ice Emperor's inheritance. But in the end, not only did they not get anything, but they also lost many subordinates. Instead, many of his subordinates' lives were lost. I'm sure he won't let this matter rest. Dark Frost smiled bitterly. I know, but they've already come to find me. What else can I do? I can't be a coward. Don't worry, give me some more time. When my cultivation breaks through, even Heavenly King and King Zhong may not be able to stop me. Ling Xiao chuckled, full of confidence. Dark Frost, of course, believes in you, brother. But there's one more thing. King Zhong is different from Heavenly King. He should be 35 years old. In other words, in this God-Devil Invitational Tournament, he has the qualifications to participate. Brother, you have to be careful. So, big brother, you have to be careful. If you meet him, just admit defeat. Anyway, the top 18 will all qualify. Chapter 3440. So you're saying that King Zhong is even more difficult to deal with than Prince Tian? That's right. King Zhong is very cunning. He's the most difficult person to deal with in the Celestial Dynasty. Dark Frost nodded confidently. Actually, in addition to King Zhong, there is another person in the Myriad Kingdoms who is second only to Dragon Mother. Isn't that King Dragon Shark? Ling Xiao asked curiously. No. King Dragon Shark is the strongest person in the Myriad Kingdoms under the age of 20. But you should know that the God-Devil Invitational invites martial artists under the age of 40. One of them is called Kong. It's a very ordinary name, but that guy is very troublesome. He's probably a reincarnation god. Dark Frost reminded him. And Kong? What's so special about his martial soul, other than his cultivation base? Ling Xiao asked. Of course. I heard that Kang's martial soul is a strange martial soul called a directional martial soul. It ensures that his attacks will always hit the target. The maximum distance could reach 1,000 meters. No one can avoid his attacks. They can only meet him head-on. Dark Frost explained. That martial soul is really convenient. Ling Xiao smiled wryly. In the face of such a martial soul, speed was meaningless. Thankfully, he had the Xuanwu god body. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. So, big brother Ling Xiao, there are still 20 days left. What do you plan to do? Continue to cultivate? Dark Frost asked. Of course. When the God-Devil Invitational comes, I need to reach the 9th level of life seizing at the very least. Otherwise, it'll be very troublesome. Although Ling Xiao had made the Koi King and Prince Tian suffer a loss in the battle today, Ling Xiao was still able to defeat them. But that didn't make him arrogant and complacent. Now that he had exposed his true strength, he knew that his opponents would only get stronger in the next 20 days. If he wanted to maintain his advantage, he had to continue to find ways to break through and get stronger. If you need any help, big brother Ling Xiao, just say the word. I'll send people to find what you need. Also, you don't know where the God-Devil Invitational is being held, right? Dark Frost asked. Speaking of which, I really don't know. Ling Xiao truly did not know much about this God-Fiend Invitational. Don't worry. Wind Spirit has already investigated thoroughly. The God and Devil Invitational Tournament will be held in the God and Devil City. That was where the owner of the Fiend God token lived. That place didn't belong to any of the 10 districts. Moreover, there are many experts. It belongs to the latter half of the immemorial divine tomb. It's close to the 4 regions. Dark Frost replied. Why does it sound like the owner of this God-Devil token is a watchdog? Are you the gatekeeper for the 4 major regions? Ling Xiao asked curiously. That's possible. If the western regions is a prison, then the immemorial divine tomb is the execution ground. The place where the owner of the Fiend God token is the prison's exit. Dark Frost said the owner of the Fiend God token is already capable of destroying the entire Western region, let alone the true experts of the other 4 regions. Therefore, after thousands of years, the Western regions could only do things with their tails between their legs. So many people died every year, but they didn't even dare to ask why. Hearing this, Ling Xiao couldn't help but feel a little touched. In other words, even if he knew where the exit of the Forbidden Land of Death was, if he couldn't defeat the owner of the Fiend God token, everything would be in vain. It seemed that he couldn't think about unnecessary things. The most important thing at the moment was still to improve his strength. There was nothing much to say. In the following time, Ling Xiao began to sweep through the 10 districts of the immemorial divine tomb. Therefore, in the last 20 days, a legend began to spread in the immemorial divine tomb. There was a terrifying humanoid monster that roamed the 10 districts of the immemorial divine tomb, specifically picking on powerful monsters. This humanoid monster seemed to become stronger every time it killed a powerful monster. It was just like the legendary Devour Beast. There were many warriors who saw him, and there was once a team of warriors who were very strong overall. There was even a destiny-changing realm warrior team who tried to hunt him down. In the end, they were all wiped out. The legend spread extremely quickly. Later on, when warriors saw this monster, they were all afraid to avoid him. Of course, the humanoid monster they were talking about was Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao spent nearly 18 days frantically looking for opponents. On the 19th day, he returned to the green zone. He was really like the legendary humanoid monster, and his beard had grown a lot. Back in the green zone, he tidied himself up before heading to the Divine Devil City with Dark Frost, Duhan, and John Hun. Dark Frost, Duhan, and John Hun were the participants of the Soul Hall. As for Wind Soul, he stayed. After all, he was already past his age. In addition, the green zone also needed someone to guard it, so it was naturally appropriate for Wind Soul to stay. In order to let Wind Soul stay in the green zone with more peace of mind, Ling Xiao also gave him the memory medal of the Soul Emperor's inheritance to comprehend. As for how much he could comprehend, it would depend on his luck. The inheritance of the 8 great ancient emperors was not unique. There could be many people who could comprehend it, but there could only be one orthodox successor, and that was the person who wielded the weapon. For example, Ling Xiao had the Ice Age, Dark Frost had the Soul-Devouring Wand, and Prince Heaven had the Heaven Sword. Excuse me for asking, but has young Hero Ling already broken through? Along the way, Duhan couldn't help but ask, "No way. Didn't he just break through to the 8th stage of life seizing? How could he break through again in 20 days? It took me 2 full years to break through from the 8th to the 9th division of the life-seizing level. If I wasn't a genius, I wouldn't have been given the title of John Hun." John Hun couldn't help but say, "Idiot. Idiot, that's only for you. It shouldn't be a problem for young Hero Ling," John Hun laughed. "Is that true?" John Hun asked, looking at Ling Xiao in surprise. Ling Xiao nodded. The truth was that he had already broken through 10 days ago. After all, thanks to the might of the heavenly kings, his sea of power had been raised to 100%. He wasn't far from breaking through. Later on, he had encountered a number of experts. There were monsters and martial artists. Because of that, he had not only broken through, but also raised his sea of power to 90%. The next breakthrough wasn't far away, but he was too embarrassed to say it out loud. If he did, John Hun would be depressed to death. They were the same kind of people who cultivated the same way, but the gap between them was huge. Heavens, you're a monster. You really are a monster. At this rate, Prince Heaven won't be a match for you. The only people you need to be careful of are Duke Zhong and Kong and the Linglong Saintess. John Hun said excitedly. "Who's the Linglong Saintess?" Ling Xiao asked curiously. The Linglong Saintess is the holy maiden of the Linglong Palace, and the #1 genius of the Alliance of Vengeance. Compared to Feng Fei, who just rose to prominence, she has better aptitude and strength. She's on the same level as Duke Zhong and Kong. More importantly, she's only 20 years old. Zhan Han sighed with emotion. Chapter 3441. Why are you sighing? Our temple master is only 13 years old, but he's already at the 3rd level of the reincarnation divine realm. He's much more powerful than that saintess. War Soul said in annoyance. That's true. War Soul said with a smile. It turns out that there are so many experts. I'm even more excited now. But there's a question I've always wanted to ask. What's the exact situation of the God Fiend Invitational? How do we fight? Ling Xiao had always been curious about this. He had participated in many martial competitions, but the rules were different, so there was no harm in understanding it in advance. He had been busy cultivating before and did not take these things to heart. But now that he was ready to go to Xuanwu Lake, he had to ask first. Otherwise, it would be depressing if he was in the dark. The rules are actually very simple. First, we have to determine the 18 people who will enter the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. Each of the 9 Supremes of the Western region will send 3 people, so there will be 27 people in the end. But this is not everyone. According to the situation in previous years, the owner of the God Fiend token will send 10 people. These 10 people have entered the Archean Divine Mausoleum before, but they did not go out and became the subordinates of the owner of the God Fiend token. But they are still martial artists of the Western region and have the qualifications to enter the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. So in fact, there are a total of 37 people competing for the 18 spots. Dark Frost explained. How do you compete? Ling Xiao asked. Of course, it's a chaotic battle. Otherwise, it's a waste of time to fight one-on-one. But this chaotic battle is also very particular. In the suburbs of the God Fiend city, there is a cave that leads to the world of the dead. It is said that any martial artist who died in the Archean Divine Mausoleum will exist in the form of an undead in that small world. The martial artists will be sent to the world of the dead for a chaotic battle. The final 18 people will have the qualifications to enter the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. Dark Frost continued to explain. In order to figure out the rules of the God Fiend Invitational, Dark Frost had put in a lot of effort during this period. After all, it was not only related to her, but also related to her most cherished brother Ling Xiao. A battle of life and death. Ling Xiao asked. That's not the case. To the Western region's 9 Supremes, those they send are all experts and geniuses. No one wanted their men to die. It was the same for the owner of the Fiend God token. The interesting thing was that this world of the dead had a special rule. As long as a martial artist suffered more than what his body could handle, he would be immediately teleported out. It was as if they did not accept the dead from the outside. However, there was one thing that was different. This only applied to battles between martial artists. If you're killed by the undead inside, then you're really dead. Dark Frost replied. Oh, I understand. If that's the case, the 18 people should be decided very quickly. What happens after the decision is made? Ling Xiao asked again. Because the top 3 will be heavily rewarded by the owner of the Fiend God token. There will still be 18 people fighting each other. The top 3 will be decided in the end. Dark Frost replied. I'm more or less clear. In other words, the first round of the chaotic battle is the most crucial. As long as I can stand out, even if I can't enter the top 3, I can still enter the ancient Sword Imperial Mausoleum. Ling Xiao had a plan in his mind. In the first round of the chaotic battle, there is no doubt that the 4 forces of the Avenging Alliance will join forces. That's what they did before. In this way, they will have a union of 12 people. The Myriad Kingdom and the Heavenly Emperor Dynasty will also join forces. In this way, they will also have a union of 9 people. The most terrifying thing is that King Zhong and Kong are both among these 9 people. Our soul hull is the weakest, with only 3 people. Dark Frost said worriedly. Girl, you're wrong. Isn't there still my 8 Immortals' Kingdom? The 3 people from our 8 immortals' kingdom will definitely surprise you. Ling Xiao smiled and said, there are 6 of us. Although there aren't many people, with you here, it won't be a problem at all. Speaking of which, who are the other 2 people from the 8 immortals' kingdom? We haven't seen them yet. Do Hun asked curiously. You've already seen Xiao Jin. As for the other person, she's called Cold Plum. She's not weaker than Xiao Jin at all. Ling Xiao said with a smile. He had already thought about the participants of the 8 immortals' kingdom, but Cold Plum and Xiao Jin would not fight for the time being. He would be fully responsible for the first round of the free-for-all. The 2 of them only needed to cultivate diligently. As for the 18-person ranking competition, the 2 of them would not participate because it was meaningless. The key was what would happen after entering the ancient sword Imperial Mausoleum. Who would have thought that your 8 immortals' kingdom, which is unknown, has 3 geniuses who are not inferior to the rest? This may be the key to turning the situation around. Do Hun sighed. To be honest, Do Hun had no impression of the 8 immortals' kingdom before Ling, Xiao, and Xiao Jin. But now he dared not underestimate this 8 immortals' kingdom at all. In fact, I'm not afraid if we join forces against the enemy. What I'm most worried about is that the terrain of the world of the dead is complicated, causing us to fight on our own. Then, there's no way to help each other. We can only rely on luck. Ling Xiao said again. That's true. Do Hun smiled bitterly and said, in fact, as long as Hall Master and young Hero Ling can enter the top 18, it's fine. We're just here to make up the numbers. That's not necessarily true. The 2 of you are now in the heaven-seizing fate exchanging level, while the others are clearly in the 9th level of life-seizing. As long as you don't meet too strong of an opponent, you can still advance. All right, don't worry about that. Let's focus on our journey. After figuring out the rules of the God Devil Invitational, Ling Xiao felt more confident. As far as he was concerned, the free-for-all shouldn't be a problem. He could easily pass. He was quite interested in the world of the dead. What kind of array or law could actually form such a strange world? The rest of the time was spent hurrying along. Because the 4 of them were all very strong, they didn't slow down in the slightest. Although the primeval god tomb was huge, they still caught sight of the God Devil City on the afternoon before the God Devil Invitational. The gigantic Divine Devil City was made entirely out of pitch-black metal. It was ferocious and terrifying. It emanated a chilling aura. The ancient God Devil City was like an enormous monster, guarding the passageway to the 4 domains. The martial artists of the western regions could only stay in the barren lands and fend for themselves, unable to advance further on the path of martial arts. The ancient Sword Emperor's 9 incarnations were the first to challenge the 4 domains. The primeval god tomb was created because of that heaven-shaking, earth-shattering battle. Countless martial artists from the western regions were buried here. Although the ancient Sword Emperor had failed, he had left behind a spark of resistance, giving the martial artists of the western regions hope. Only a sliver of hope remained. Ling Xiao could even imagine the majestic scene that had occurred back then. In order to find a way out, the ancestors of the ancient Sword Emperor had shed their blood. Chapter 3442. In order to open a stronger path for the Western region martial artists, the ancient Sword Emperor joined hands with 8 great ancient emperors and dozens of generals. Countless generals and soldiers. A long and drawn-out war began here. Imagining it now was still exciting. Flying is not allowed in the Divine Devil City. Come down. Darkfrost reminded. The 4 of them landed on the ground and walked in the direction of the Divine Devil City. Suddenly, 2 terrifying auras flew over. They landed on the left and right respectively. One of them was the Heavenly Emperor dynasty, and the other was the Myriad Kingdom. Dragon Mother, Heavenly Emperor, King Zhong, and Kong had all arrived. As for Dragon Shark King, King Carp, Prince Tian, and the others, they also followed. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. When these two parties saw the people from the Soul Hall, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. But fortunately, because this was the Divine Devil City, no one dared to make a move. Your eyes are so big. Be careful, your eyeballs might fall out. Bite me if you have the ability. Ling Xiao looked at Prince Tian and the others in disdain. He was still as annoying as ever, but those people couldn't do anything to him. Kid, don't be so arrogant. Wait until you reach the world of the dead. You'll suffer. Prince Tian said fiercely. Just you? Don't be funny. In the Battle of the Green Region, you all ran away with your tails between your legs. Now you're still pretending to be a wolf. Ling Xiao said in disdain. You. Prince Tian was infuriated by Ling Xiao's words. All right, there's no time to talk with this kid. The people from the Revenge Alliance should have arrived. Let's go in first. If you want to settle the score, there will be plenty of opportunities. There's no need to rush. Dragon Mother glanced at Ling Xiao with a hint of surprise in her eyes. It had been a long time since someone could make her angry. This Ling Xiao was the first. But she was scheming and astute. She wouldn't be so stupid to make a move against Ling Xiao here. Once she offended the owner of the Divine Devil Order, she would be the one in the end. Although she was invincible in the Western region, she was not worth mentioning in front of the owner of the Divine Devil Order. Ling Xiao was too lazy to talk nonsense with these people. Seeing that they had left, he also walked towards the city. The Divine Devil City was much bigger than he had imagined. Rather than calling it a city, it would be better to call it a fortress. At this moment, a huge screen was set up in the central square of the Divine Devil City. The screen displayed the scene of the world of the dead. Those undead looked ugly, but they were very powerful. It was just that they were sealed in the small world by some kind of power and couldn't come out. Otherwise, the entire Western region would have fallen. On the square, the martial artists of the Revenge Alliance had already arrived. Ling Xiao didn't know the others, but there were some familiar faces that Ling Xiao remembered very clearly. This was especially true for Feng Fei and Tianhai Tyranny. Both of their cultivations had already reached the life-changing realm. Moreover, he felt like Feng Fei had inherited Fairy Linglong's legacy. Tyranny Heavenly Seas had also obtained the Flame Emperor's legacy. Among those from the White Tiger continent, 4 of them had gained the recognition of the ancient emperor. Ling Xiao, Long Qin, Feng Fei, Tianhai Tyranny. It was clear that the talents of the Black Tortoise Continent's martial artists couldn't compare to those from the other 3 continents. They were stronger simply because they had more resources. Actually, there wasn't much to be proud of. Of course, besides the 4 of them, the rest of the participants were also strong. None of them were trash. After all, there were many martial artists in the Western regions. The 27 participants were all outstanding figures, proud sons and daughters of the heavens. After looking around, Ling Xiao's gaze finally settled on the platform. The person sitting there gave him a fright. The seat at the head was empty, but the 8 martial artists sitting below that person were all experts of the reincarnation divine realm. Their auras weren't any weaker than the likes of the Celestial King and Duke of Zhong. Are those the subordinates of the Divine Devil Order's owner? Ling Xiao furrowed his brows. The Divine Devil and Divine Devil envoys he once thought to be incomparably powerful were now nothing more than 2 small fries. They could only stand there without even having the right to sit. Ling Xiao guessed that the seat at the head was reserved for the owner of the Divine Devil Order. While he was paying attention to the martial artists in God Devil City, he had no idea that he'd become the target of public criticism. Apart from the people of the Hall of Souls, the cultivators of the other 7 factions probably viewed him as a thorn in their flesh. After all, a piece of trash had suddenly risen to become a powerhouse they had no choice but to take seriously. It was hard for them to accept. Because of jealousy, it was only natural that they would treat Ling Xiao with hostility. It was human nature, so there was nothing strange about it. Is that the Ling Xiao who defeated the Koi King? He doesn't look like much. His aura is so weak. He's probably only in the 9th level of the life-seizing stage. That's right. I heard that Ling Xiao belongs to the 8 Immortals Kingdom. The 8 Immortals Kingdom is the small kingdom that defeated the Sword Dynasty. For a small kingdom like that to produce an expert of that level is already incredible. Humph. He's just a stinky fishing line. How could he be worthy of standing on the same battlefield as us? How about we all make a deal? As long as we meet that kid, we'll join forces to kill him. Then we'll fight for a spot based on our own skills. No problem. But that kid has the Ice Emperor's legacy. Who's going to get it? It belongs to whoever kills him. Aside from Feng Fei and Heavenly Sea Tyranny, none of the other competitors seemed to care about Ling Xiao at all. It was as if Ling Xiao was just there to make up the numbers. If they wanted to kill him, they could kill him. All right. After everyone came to an agreement, their gazes towards Ling Xiao were filled with intense greed. Boss, it looks like these guys are going to do something bad to you. Long Qin secretly transmitted his voice. Don't worry. Only a few of these pieces of trash are a threat to me. As for the rest, I'll kill them one by one. If 2 come, I'll kill a pair. You, on the other hand, have to be careful of that Duke Zhong. He's very cunning, but that's not necessarily the case for him. Even if you believe him, my intentions are clear. If anything goes wrong, come back immediately. I won't allow you to make any mistakes. Ling Xiao reminded him. Boss, don't worry. I'm not an idiot. If there's really no other way, I'll naturally choose to slip away. Long Qin nodded. That's for the best. Ling Xiao nodded his head and immediately felt relieved. Long Qin had followed him from the Sky Dragon continent all the way to the Black Tortoise continent. Although he wasn't much older, his mind was very mature. There was no need to worry too much. Boss, I have some information to share with you. If you remember it, it might be helpful. Long Qin said again. All right. Soon enough, Ling Xiao's mind was filled with detailed information about the 9 Supremes. This information was very secretive. Long Qin had probably spent a lot of effort to get his hands on it. The 4 great factions had quite a few rebirth realm martial artists. Chapter 3443. The Samsara deity, realm martial artists of the 4 great factions were not as few as Ling Xiao imagined. According to the information provided by Long Qin, there were originally 2 people in Soul Hall. After Yan Shifeng died, only Dark Frost was left. Dark Frost had the highest cultivation among all the reincarnation divine realm warriors. She had reached the 3rd level of the reincarnation divine realm. Only Dragon Mother and the leader of the Vengeful Alliance were on the same level. There were 5 people at the 2nd level of the reincarnation divine realm. They were the Heavenly King and King Zhong of Heavenly Dynasty, and the 3 deputy leaders of Revenge Alliance. There were even more people at the 1st level of the reincarnation divine realm. There were 11 of them. The 2 in Wanguo were in Kong and Dragon Shark King. Dragon Shark King had just broken through. Although his foundation was not stable, he had broken through. The 4 in Heavenly Dynasty were the East King, West King, North King, and South King. The 5 in Revenge Alliance were the leaders of the 4 forces and the Linglong Saintess. Of course, the 3 old guys who were still in the primeval bottle were also experts at the 2nd level of the reincarnation divine realm. It was a pity that, although they belonged to Soul Hall, they could not fight for Soul Hall. The leader of Revenge Alliance was a very mysterious guy. He basically never showed up. Even most of the people in Revenge Alliance did not know him. However, this person really existed and was indeed powerful. After all, he had shown his face in the battle in the past. This could not be faked. If he had to say who was more powerful, Ling Xiao still felt that Dark Frost and Dragon Mother were stronger. After all, both of them had the inheritance of the ancient emperor. One was the inheritance of the Sea God Emperor, and the other was the inheritance of the Soul Emperor. As for the leader of Revenge Alliance, to be honest, he was not too clear about him. The information provided by Long Chin did not mention him. For the time being, he could not confirm whether he had the inheritance of the ancient emperor or not. The so-called inheritance of the ancient emperor here referred to the orthodox inheritance. Only those who had the ancient emperor divine weapon could be counted. You are Ling Xiao. Just as Ling Xiao was calculating the strength of the four forces, a very arrogant voice suddenly sounded. Ling Xiao looked up and saw an elegant woman wearing a veil. That kind of temperament made it seem as if she really thought of herself as a fairy and completely ignored everyone else. Shouldn't you introduce yourself before asking someone a question? Ling Xiao asked indifferently. That brat is really daring. How dare he not give face to the Linglong Saintess? Seeing Ling Xiao's reaction, everyone was amused. They felt that Ling Xiao was going to be in trouble. You don't deserve to know. The Linglong Saintess was indeed angry. Idiot, Ling Xiao scolded. What are you so proud of? In this god-fiend city, we're just a bunch of ants that can't even be brought to the table. Showing off in front of me? Why don't you show off in front of the master of the divine devil token? He really couldn't understand. At a time like this, these people were still thinking about internal strife. They were showing off their status and strength like idiots. Little did they know that in front of the cultivators of the four major territories, such status and strength were like a group of ants discussing seniority. What a joke! What did you say? The Linglong Saintess had never thought that Ling Xiao would be so presumptuous and dare to call her an idiot. Aren't you an idiot? Everyone was just a chess piece being played in the palm of someone else's hand. Who's better than the other? We're the ones who got the key to the ancient sword imperial mausoleum. Why do we need others to judge us? Ling Xiao felt very uncomfortable. He was weaker than others, so he had to be suppressed and do things according to others' rules. This made him very unhappy. Hearing Ling Xiao's words, everyone's expression changed. Brat, shut up. Do you want to get everyone killed? The Linglong Saintess shouted. Scared? You were so arrogant just now. I thought you wouldn't be scared. Ling Xiao sneered. You. The Linglong Saintess was speechless. Instead, Tianhai Tyranny stood out and said, Ling Xiao, don't think that this is still the White Tiger continent. Here, you don't even deserve to clean the shoes of the Linglong Saintess. How dare you be so presumptuous? Loser, why are you so arrogant? I thought you became successful after coming to the Black Tortoise continent. I didn't expect you to clean a woman's shoes. What a disgrace. Ling Xiao wasn't even afraid of the Linglong Saintess. How could he give face to Tianhai Tyranny? His words made Tianhai Tyranny embarrassed. Feng Fei smiled bitterly. Fortunately, he didn't show up. Otherwise, he would be the one losing face. When she was with Ling Xiao in the White Tiger continent, she knew very well about his poisonous tongue. It was fine. She wouldn't argue with this guy. Of course, it was also because she felt that some of Ling Xiao's words made sense. Everyone was ants in front of the owner of the Celestial Devil Order. It was ridiculous to choose a general among ants. Girl, today isn't the day of the competition, right? Since you're in the Celestial Devil City, why don't you walk around? Ling Xiao had no interest in wasting time with these short-sighted idiots. He wanted to wander around the Divine Devil City and investigate the situation of the Divine Devil City. Of course, this Celestial Devil City has a much older history than the Alliance of Vengeance. Maybe we'll find something interesting. Dark Frost nodded. In any case, today wasn't the day of the competition. It was good to stroll around. After their discussion, they left the central plaza in front of everyone and walked towards the streets. They could feel that the air in the Celestial Devil City was much fresher than anywhere else in the western regions. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth here is 10 times thicker than anywhere else in the western regions. Even breathing can increase one's cultivation. No wonder people say that the martial artists of the four regions are already close to the first cycle of rebirth realm when they're still in their mother's womb. If the celestial devil city is like this, then the spiritual chi of the four regions must be even thicker. Ling Xiao sighed with emotion. That's true. The reason why we Western regions martial artists want to go to the four regions is naturally to cultivate. Dark Frost sighed with emotion as well. Roar. All of a sudden, the streets were thrown into chaos. A bestial roar rang out, causing many people to tremble in fear. Countless people scrambled to the sides of the street. That allowed Ling Xiao and the others to see what was happening up ahead. There were about 5 people walking down the street. They were led by a person who was garbed in gold and silver and wore luxurious clothing. She held a thick chain in her hand. At the end of the chain was the image of a demonling. Shockingly, this demonling was in the 9th division of the life-seizing level. The demonling was an enormous white ape, which bared its fangs and roared at the crowd. Looking at the people who were scared to the point of staggering left and right, the girl in luxurious clothes holding the iron chain happily laughed out loud. She was beautiful and had a great figure. However, what she was doing right now was completely unflattering. "Mommy!" All of a sudden, a little girl about 7 or 8 years old fell down in the middle of the street. The terrifying white ape opened its bloody maw and bit down on the little girl. The girl was so frightened that she began to cry. Chapter 3444. A woman rushed out from the crowd. She should be the little girl's mother. She bravely stood in front of the little girl. In the end, she was swallowed by the white ape in one gulp. This scene made Ling Xiao feel rather uncomfortable. Just as he was about to do something, someone beside him had already rushed out and hugged the little girl, saving her. The one who made the move was Dark Frost. Ling Xiao could see that Dark Frost's eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent. This was actually very easy to understand. Dark Frost had also encountered misfortune when she was young. It was probably because she saw this little girl and thought of her own past. Girl, don't be rash. You are a reincarnation god realm martial artist. Once you make a move, the impact will be too great. Leave the rest to me. Ling Xiao instructed Dark Frost. Just take good care of this little girl. Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized that the white ape had actually rushed over. The well-dressed girl directly released the chain. Little White, get rid of those good-for-nothings. The girl did not feel that she had done anything wrong at all. Clearly, she was fearless. This girl's strength was only at the heaven-changing fate realm. The martial artists behind her were also at this realm. However, seeing how arrogant she was and how arrogant she was, one could tell that her family background was definitely extremely illustrious. She was probably a high official of the god Devil City. That white ape was not weak. If it was anyone else, they would probably become a delicacy in the white ape's stomach. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a cold light. He took a step forward and blocked in front of Dark Frost. Evil creature, die. Ling Xiao struck out with hatred. His palm directly landed on the white ape's head, completely flattening its body. He held the demon beast core in his hand. The level of the Vajra ape beast soul could no longer keep up with his cultivation. This white ape beast soul could be used to level up. He casually threw it into the mountain river world. Then he looked coldly at the girl opposite him. You killed my little white. Do you know that little white is like my family? I want you to pay with your life. Seeing that the white ape was killed, a ruthless look flashed across the girl's eyes. Then she stabbed her sword towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao stood there with his right hand outstretched. He didn't use his beast soul transformation at all. He faced the girl directly. The girl's eyes were filled with disdain. Clearly, she could tell that Ling Xiao was only a 9th division life-sizer. She, on the other hand, was a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm expert. How could Ling Xiao possibly be her opponent? However, in the next moment, she was stunned. This was because Ling Xiao's hand was as hard as diamond, easily grabbing onto her sword. She tried to shake it a few times, but nothing happened. Damn it! The young girl snorted, and a strange lightning flashed on her sword. This lightning flashed from the sword towards Ling Xiao. Then the girl struck out with her other hand, aiming for Ling Xiao's chest. What? Even more shocking was that as soon as the lightning touched Ling Xiao, it dissipated like smoke. His sword didn't even budge, and the palm wind she blasted out was actually broken by Ling Xiao's finger, and there was even an extra lump of blood on her palm, causing her to grimace in pain. Screw off! Ling Xiao roared. Grabbing the sword, he tossed the girl away. Then, his leg flew up and kicked the girl's abdomen. He didn't seem to care at all about the fairer sex. The girl shrieked as she was sent tumbling backward. Her companions hurried to catch her, and it took a lot of effort for them to catch her. She looked battered and exhausted. After recovering from her shock, the girl's eyes burned with rage. "How dare you hit me?" "So what?" Yang Qi said. "If you don't screw off, I'll kill you." Ling Xiao took a step forward. His terrifying killing intent almost formed a ferocious beast, intimidating everyone. The girl backed up a few paces, her face twisted with rage. "You're the first person in God Devil City who dares to hit me. You're dead." In her panic, the girl continued to clamor, probably because she had never been treated like this before. She found it hard to accept. Still not getting lost, Ling Xiao took another step forward, and the girl's face instantly turned pale. "Miss, let's retreat. That kid isn't easy to deal with," the warrior next to her said in a low voice. Just catching the young girl had already left them in a very sorry state. If they really fought, no one knew what would happen. A bunch of trash. Let's go. The girl's face was gloomy, but at this moment, she knew that she couldn't do anything to Ling Xiao. Helpless, she could only turn around and escape. The few people who escorted her also left together. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to cause trouble for Dark Frost, Ling Xiao would never let these people go. He preferred to eliminate the source of trouble. "That girl, do any of you know her?" Ling Xiao asked the crowd. On the street, everyone was submissive, not daring to say a word to Ling Xiao, as if they were afraid of being implicated. From this, it could be seen that the girl's background was probably not ordinary. "I'm sorry, Brother Ling Xiao. It's all my fault for being impulsive and causing trouble." Dark Frost sighed helplessly. She knew that the Divine Devil City itself wasn't simple. How could the people in the Divine Devil City be simple? After offending such a person, there would be no peace in the future. "What are you talking about? Even if you didn't do it, I would have done it. It's not too much to kill such a vicious woman. It's just that we're on the street, and killing her would bring trouble. After all, the power behind this woman is definitely not simple." Ling Xiao had just arrived at the Divine Devil City, and he planned to keep a low profile. If trouble came, he wouldn't be a coward. He had to do what he had to do. "Let's go and continue shopping. Don't let that trash affect your mood." Ling Xiao called out to the crowd. "But what about this girl? Her mother is already dead." Dark Frost looked at the pitiful girl and was a little worried. "She'll be in more danger if she follows us. I believe that woman won't let it go easily with her temper." Ling Xiao sighed and said, "Although her mother is dead, she still has her father." Dark Frost glanced at the man in the crowd who was shivering in fear. She curled her lips and said, "What a useless man. He's so much worse than Brother Ling Xiao. It's good enough that he didn't run away. Little girl, go back and look for your father." Ling Xiao sent the girl away, and the few of them continued shopping. Just as he was worried, it didn't take long for many warriors in the same uniform to appear on the street. The uniforms of these warriors were all black and white. The insignia on them was a bloody axe and a poisonous snake coiled around the axe. Among these people The leader was the girl who was chased away by Ling Xiao. It's him. The young lady soon discovered Ling Xiao, and a group of people quickly surrounded him. They surrounded Ling Xiao, Dark Frost, Fighting Souls, and Fighting Souls. These people are not to be trifled with. Ling Xiao's brows furrowed tightly. The people who surrounded them were not only on the ground, but also in the sky. Most of the warriors were in the heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm. There were also many reincarnation divine realm experts. Chapter 3445. Just as Ling Xiao had expected, the Divine Devil City was not simple. Any random force that came out was so terrifying. The surrounding people moved away to avoid standing with Ling Xiao and the rest. They were martial artists of the Divine Devil City, so they knew very well what kind of people had come. In the Divine Devil City, other than the owner of the Divine Devil Order, there were 3 other forces. They were the Blood Axe Snake Clan, the Blood Sword Wolf Clan, and the Blood Blade Bear Clan. These 3 clans were not pure-blooded humans. They were the descendants of the Beast Clan and humans from the 4 major territories. They might not have a high status in the 4 major territories, but in the Divine Devil City, no one dared to provoke them except for the owner of the Divine Devil Order. However, Ling Xiao had provoked the Blood Axe Snake Clan. Boy, do you regret it now. The girl walked towards Ling Xiao under the protection of the crowd. She was still arrogant and ruthless. She was so scared that her face turned pale, but she became arrogant with the protection of the experts around her. She was just out shopping with her little white, but she did not expect to meet such an insensible guy. He killed her little white and threatened to kill her. I do regret it. Ling Xiao looked at the young lady coldly and said, I regret not killing you earlier. Now that I see your disgusting expression, I want to vomit. Hearing this, the young lady's face stiffened. Then a chilling aura was released from her body. This hateful guy was so bold. He was at his wit's end, but he still dared to ridicule her? All right, since that's the case, I'll completely destroy your laughable dignity in front of these people. Thinking of this, the young lady stretched out her shoe and said coldly, I'll give you a chance. Come here and lick my shoe clean. Then I'll consider whether to spare your life. She felt that killing Ling Xiao would be letting him off too easily. She wanted to torture Ling Xiao both physically and mentally. I've seen idiots, but I've never seen one as idiotic as you. Do you think that everyone in this world is your dog, that you can order and humiliate them as you wish? Ling Xiao sneered. These words caused the young girl to completely lose her patience. Kill him, kill all of them. I want to hang their corpses on the walls of the Divine Devil City and let everyone see the consequences of offending me. The girl roared hysterically. Obviously, he had been driven mad by Ling Xiao. Kill! The young girl's status was clearly not low. With her order, dozens of heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artists immediately rushed towards Ling Xiao and the others. Don't make a move yet. I'll play with them. If it was just a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist, there was no need for Dark Frost to take action. Ling Xiao's body instantly entered the 9-snake General Beast Soul transformation. After that, 9 snake heads poked out from behind him at the same time. 9 cries of agony were heard simultaneously. 9 heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artists had their necks bitten off by the snake head virtually without the slightest ability to resist. Everyone was astonished. This outsider's strength was really not weak. The moment he made his move, he killed 9 heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm powerhouses. This was also a little too powerful. Kill him. Quickly kill him for me. The young girl became even more irritable. Seeing Ling Xiao displaying his invincible might there, she was extremely unhappy in her heart. Following her shout, even more martial artists rushed towards Ling Xiao. The martial artists on the ground and in the sky interweaved into one, completely ignoring the other few people. All of their targets were Ling Xiao. The warrior's soul and battle soul were about to make a move, but they were still stopped by Ling Xiao. It's just a few kittens and puppies. It's not your turn to make a move. As for Dark Frost, you just have to keep an eye on those few reincarnation divine realm martial artists. One figure after another surrounded the surroundings until not even a drop of water could trickle through. Even the light of the crimson sun was unable to penetrate it. Terrifying killing intent pervaded the long street. Countless people were trembling with fear. However, in Ling Xiao's eyes, a powerful fighting intent bloomed. The potential in his body seemed to have been greatly stimulated and began to wildly vent. Ha ha ha, come at me. Ling Xiao had been waiting for an opportunity to let himself advance again. Those powerful monsters in the 10th district, except for the reincarnation divine realm, were all annihilated by him. He was worried about not finding a suitable opponent to fight. Now it was good. These martial artists in the Divine Devil City had created an opportunity for him. Since you're here, all of you go to hell for me. Extreme Cold Realm. Ling Xiao roared angrily, and a huge extreme cold realm enveloped all the martial artists who rushed towards him. Those people's movements all slowed down in an instant. Some of the weaker ones were directly frozen. 9 Snake Poison Realm, Black Poison of Death Kingdom. The moment of freezing, the 9 snake heads behind Ling Xiao spat out black poison. The air was filled with an unpleasant smell. All the martial artists who rushed towards him were all wrapped in this black poison mist. Help! No! Damn it, what is this thing? Every time there was a scream, a person could be seen being melted. Blood-curdling screams rang out one after another. One martial artist after another was killed by the black poison of the Death Kingdom. As Ling Xiao's cultivation base increased, so did the black poison of the Death Kingdom. Not even martial artists in the heaven-seizing and life-exchanging level could defend against it. Ling Xiao stood there in his beast soul form, looking very ferocious. He had slaughtered over 1,000 enemies without being injured. It was a scene that left everyone completely shaken. So strong! The martial artists on the street were all staring in shock. They had assumed that after the appearance of the Blood Axe Hydras, Ling Xiao would be killed. But the reality of the situation was completely different from what they had imagined. Ling Xiao hadn't died. Instead, he had killed most of the Blood Axe Hydras with his poison. Most shocking of all was that his aura was only in the 9th division of the life-seizing level. He was one of the weakest martial artists in the Divine Devil City, and yet he was slaughtering so many people. This was too shocking for the two of them. Is this young hero Ling's true power? The warrior soul and the war soul looked at each other in shock. You're wrong, Yang Qi said. This isn't his true power. Dark Frost had seen Ling Xiao's unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation, so she knew that Ling Xiao could get even stronger. The truth was that the so-called Heaven Prince and the Koi King were no longer a match for Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's current opponents were all in the 1st division of the Reincarnation God realm. This is awesome. Ling Xiao could feel that the energy in his cultivation sea was once again on the verge of a breakthrough. One more step, and he would be in the heaven-seizing and life-exchanging level. He would even be able to defeat a 1st division Reincarnation God realm expert. Off in the distance, the young woman surrounded by the Reincarnation God realm expert had an unsightly expression on her face. This Ling Xiao was only in the 9th division of the life-seizing level. How could he be so terrifying? Chapter 3446. The girl from the Blood Axe Snake clan was extremely shocked. Ling Xiao killed thousands of martial artists with just one blow. Although those martial artists were not considered as experts of the Blood Axe Snake clan, they were still considered as experts. But they were all killed just like that? She only brought 1,000 people this time. After the heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist died, there were only 5 first-level reincarnation divine realm martial artists left. It seems that you have to take action. That kid doesn't seem simple. The girl said to the reincarnation divine realm martial artist beside her. Her face became colder and colder. Ling Xiao actually killed the people of the Blood Axe Snake clan wantonly in the God Devil City. Didn't he know that the Blood Axe Snake clan was the family of the 3 most powerful generals under the God Devil Order's owner? I've long heard that there are a few extraordinary geniuses in the Western region. Each of them has the ability to challenge those above their level. This person must be one of them. Miss, don't worry, I'll kill him now. A man walked out from the girl's side. He held a long sword and had a red spot between his eyebrows. His expression was arrogant. Good, kill him. I'll reward you handsomely. Seeing the person who walked out, the girl finally breathed a sigh of relief. This person was the strongest among the people she brought out this time. Although he was also a first-level reincarnation divine realm martial artist, his combat strength was top-notch among martial artists of the same cultivation level. Are you the Heavenly Prince of the Heavenly Emperor dynasty? The martial artist asked in a clear voice. No. Then are you the Dragon Shark King of myriad countries? No. Soul Halls Yama? Not even. Then you must be the Revenge Alliance's Tyranny Heavenly Ocean, right? If you want to kill someone, just kill them. What do those trash have to do with me? Ling Xiao said disdainfully. None of them? The martial artist was obviously stunned. He had heard a lot about the 4 major forces, talking about how those geniuses were. The names he heard most often were those few people. He didn't expect that the person in front of him was not one of them. This was too strange. Red Spot, don't talk nonsense with that guy. No matter who he is, he's the trash of the Western region. Just kill him. The girl was also a little unhappy. Yes, miss. The reincarnation divine realm martial artist known as Red Spot finally landed and walked towards Ling Xiao. Young man, if you have a next life, remember, don't be too arrogant, especially in front of people who are stronger than you. Red Spot said coldly. After being in the Divine Devil City for so long, he had never met a Western region martial artist who dared to challenge a Divine Devil City martial artist. Obviously, the young man he met today was quite talented, so he was a little arrogant. Only then would they be foolish enough to make an enemy out of them. Boom! Ace Spot's body's body. That powerful aura made it hard for the fighting souls and fighting souls to breathe. No need. As he spoke, Ling Xiao had already transformed into the unbounded heavenly rat. All the beast souls were released. Die. Snorting coldly, Red Spot shot toward Ling Xiao like a bolt of lightning. Perhaps it was because he didn't think much of Ling Xiao, but he didn't use any martial techniques. He only used ordinary attacks. After all, his opponent was only a 9th-stage life-sizer. Red Spot, on the other hand, was a first-stage reincarnation divine realm martial artist. The difference in cultivation base was too great. If he had to use martial techniques, it would be too embarrassing. Frigid Domain. Ice Age. Facing such a powerful opponent, Ling Xiao didn't hold back. Within the Frigid Domain, he unleashed his most powerful move, Ice Age. Although he couldn't perfectly control Ice Age with his current strength, there was no doubt that it was terrifyingly powerful. Rumble. They collided. The ground split open. The surrounding buildings collapsed. Ling Xiao's body almost flew out, but he was caught by Ming Shuang with one hand. Most shocking of all was that the first-stage reincarnation divine realm martial artist actually took half a step back. His expression was extremely unsightly. His attack hadn't killed his opponent, and from the looks of it, Ling Xiao hadn't been injured at all. And yet, he himself had taken half a step back. It was a complete disgrace. Here it comes. Ling Xiao looked up into the sky. He had broken through from the 9th stage of life seizing to the heaven seizing fate exchanging level. No tribulation lightning. It seemed the rumors weren't wrong. In the heaven seizing fate exchanging level, the most important thing was the improvement of the soul. It wasn't the level of the body. Stepping into that level meant that he had 1 foot in the door of the reincarnation divine realm. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as he rose to his feet. Looking at Red Spot, he crooked his finger and said, "Again!" Red Spot's expression was extremely serious. He had seen many geniuses before, but someone like Ling Xiao he had really never seen before. A 9th stage life-sizer could actually take an attack from a 1st stage reincarnation divine realm martial artist and not die. Most terrifying of all, he had broken through in the middle of the fight. The heaven-seizing fate exchanging level was also known as the half-step reincarnation level. Once he stepped into that level, the gap between him and Ling Xiao would shrink dramatically. The difference between the 9th stage of life-seizing and the reincarnation divine realm was like the difference between a fetus and an adult. The difference between the heaven-seizing fate exchanging level and the reincarnation divine realm was like the difference between a child and an adult. Although a child was small, it was still possible for him to kill an adult. Compared to a fetus, that was a qualitative leap. "I'm actually afraid." Red Spot frowned. He couldn't believe that he would be afraid of a martial artist who had just broken through to the heaven-seizing fate exchanging level. It was completely ridiculous. No, impossible. This guy has to die. How could there be such a terrifying monster? Red Spot did his best to calm himself down. Suddenly, he charged toward Ling Xiao again. However, this time he didn't hold back. A terrifying king-class martial skill appeared in his hand. Unexpectedly, he used a mid-level king-class martial skill. It was far more powerful than the martial skills used by most experts in the Western domain. After all, even experts like Dragon Mother and Dark Frost could only use mid-level king-class martial skills. As expected of a martial artist from God Devil City, he was terrifyingly strong. In the face of such a powerful attack, Ling Xiao's expression remained calm. Blizzard ice ceiling steps. Ling Xiao used his movement technique. Instead of retreating, he charged toward his opponent. Before, the blizzard ice ceiling steps had almost no effect on Red Spot. But now that Ling Xiao had broken through, things were different. The cold of the blizzard ice ceiling steps made Red Spot very uncomfortable. He felt as if his hands and feet were cold, and his breathing was not smooth. Although it was very slight, it was indeed uncomfortable, and it affected his performance. Frigid field. Facing a reincarnation divine realm martial artist who was going all out, Ling Xiao didn't dare to be careless. Under the frigid field, Red Spot felt even more uncomfortable, and his blood felt like it was being frozen. Bloodthirsty plague. At that moment, something even more troublesome happened. Red Spot felt an itch on his frostbitten skin. Then he felt a strange feeling, as if something had drilled into his body. Chapter 3447. Supreme Flame, Blazing Sky, Sword Art. Supreme Ice-Cold Sky, Resolute. Supreme Spirit Heaven Sword Art. Exquisite, Celestial Sword Art. Supreme Snake Venomous Sky, Sword Art. 5 swords in 1 kill. This time, Ling Xiao did not use Ice Age because that thing was too difficult to control. But the power of 5 swords in 1 was not inferior to the current Ice Age at all. It was even stronger. After all, Ling Xiao could completely control this power, unlike Ice Age where most of the energy was actually wasted. Boom! A terrifying roar sounded in the void. Ling Xiao was sent flying again and smashed heavily on the ground, causing a huge crack to appear. But in an instant he jumped up from the ground. Blood seeped from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were filled with excitement. Looking at Red Spot again, he was actually repelled by Ling Xiao again, and this time he retreated more than 10 meters away. His hands were actually trembling slightly. Impossible! Red Spot's shock was simply indescribable. He had already used all his strength, but he could only cause Ling Xiao to suffer a slight injury. It was meaningless. He was a level 1 reincarnation divine realm martial artist, but he could not even kill a heaven-changing fate realm martial artist. How was this possible? Are you very surprised? Ling Xiao looked at Red Spot in disdain and charged over again. In his eyes, Red Spot had already become the best sparring partner. Since the other party could not kill him, he could use it to increase his strength. With just one blow, the energy in his cultivation C had increased by 50%. Indeed, reincarnation divine realm martial artists were awesome. The huge pressure benefited him greatly. So next, everyone saw a strange scene. Ling Xiao kept attacking the Red Spot, and then he kept getting pushed back. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, but there was a smile on his face. Time and time again, as if he did not know fear. Finally, after a few hundred collisions, Ling Xiao stopped, feeling the abundant energy in his body, and his heart was filled with pride. The energy in his cultivation C had increased to 100%. With just one battle, he had made such a huge improvement. He felt that he could even kill a reincarnation divine realm martial artist now. Let's start with you. Ling Xiao took a deep breath and swallowed a handful of pills to replenish his true essence. On the other hand, the Red Spot was already panting. However, he didn't have a miraculous elixir like Ling Xiao's. He could only stare at Ling Xiao. His eyes no longer had the arrogance and confidence from before. There was even a trace of confusion in his eyes. It could be seen that he had not been able to kill Ling Xiao for such a long time. Instead, he could feel that Ling Xiao was becoming stronger and stronger. This severely damaged Red Spot's self-confidence. Miss, this brat has an immortal body. I'm afraid he has cultivated a king-tier defensive martial art. Red Spot retreated to the side of the Blood Axe Snake Clan girl and said with a frown, So what? He's merely a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist. Don't tell me that you, a reincarnation deity realm martial artist, actually can't kill him? The young girl looked at Red Spot coldly, without any intention of thinking for him. Red Spot, you trash. To think that you're our boss. You're really useless. The rest of the people beside the young girl sneered disdainfully. What did you say? Red Spot said angrily. Isn't that so? You can't even kill a mere heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist. What else can you do? Humph, you're so capable. Why don't you give it a try? Red Spot snorted coldly. Let's give it a try. When I kill that brat, the position of boss will belong to me. The one who spoke was a martial artist dressed in black. All right, you go. The young girl didn't care who went. As long as they could kill Ling Xiao, it was fine. Subordinate obeys. The black-clothed martial artist chuckled, pushed Red Spot away, and then charged towards Ling Xiao. In his eyes, Ling Xiao was just a heaven-seizing, fate-changing realm martial artist. No matter how strong he was, how strong could he be? Red Spot, that idiot, probably played with too many women, and his legs were weak. Wind, snow, ice ceiling step, facing the powerful attack of the black-clothed martial artist. Ling Xiao did not meet it head-on this time. This was because the energy in his cultivation C was already full. Even if he wanted to break through, he would need to look for an opportunity. It was not something that could be achieved by meeting force with force. Next, he wanted to try and see if he could kill a reincarnation divine realm martial artist. As the cold air in the air increased, the speed of the black-clothed martial artist clearly slowed down a little. This allowed Ling Xiao to easily avoid his attack. The black-clothed martial artist's punch landed on the ground. creating a large crater with a diameter of more than 10 meters. Ling Xiao didn't even look and once again used the extreme, cold domain. This caused the black-clothed martial artist's movements to become even more sluggish. At the same time, Ling Xiao's 5 swords once again flew into the air and entered the Western Region Divine Tomb map. After absorbing the powerful energy, they flew out. They turned into 5 terrifying sword chi. Then, the 5 swords merged into one. They charged towards the black-clothed martial artist. After all, the black-clothed martial artist was a reincarnation divine realm expert. Although he was affected by the extreme cold domain, he still turned around at the most critical moment. Terrifying power quickly condensed on his fists and smashed towards Ling Xiao. Soul-devouring domain. Suddenly, Ling Xiao released the soul-devouring domain that he had hidden. At that moment, the black-clothed martial artist felt a little dizzy. The power condensed in his hands also began to dissipate. Even though all of this happened in an instant, it was enough to be fatal. Ling Xiao's attack had already landed. The black-clothed martial artist's fist force was actually torn apart like rotten weeds. The terrifying sword light fiercely bombarded the black-clothed martial artist's body. The black-clothed martial artist was smashed to the ground in a very sorry state. However, a reincarnation divine realm martial artist was a reincarnation divine realm martial artist after all. Even if it was only the first level, he wouldn't be killed so easily. However, Ling Xiao was already prepared. Bloodthirsty plague, golden silkworm, goo poison. The double poison continuously touched the black-clothed martial artist's wound. The black-clothed martial artist screamed and felt his chi and blood begin to become chaotic. One had to know that even Dark Frost was unable to resolve the golden silkworm goo poison back then. Although Ling Xiao's golden silkworm goo poison wasn't that strong, it was still able to cause a lot of trouble to the black-clothed martial artist. In an instant, a large number of flaws appeared in the black-clothed martial artist's defense. Coupled with the devastation of the bloodthirsty plague, the black-clothed martial artist finally understood why Red Spot was unable to deal with this kid. This kid's attack was too strange. Every attack was impossible to guard against. Ling Xiao's 5 swords rose into the air once again. He who had already reached the peak of the heaven-seizing fate-changing realm could easily use the 5 swords as one. Seeing this scene, the black-clothed martial artist was shocked. The current him wasn't in a good state and didn't dare to fight head-on at all. He turned around and was about to dodge. However, he didn't notice that he was still in Ling Xiao's soul-devouring domain. A shining whale hunting lightning spear quietly extended out from the darkness. That was the true fatal blow. As for the 5 swords as one, it was used to finish off the blow. Since there was a chance to kill the other party, Ling Xiao would definitely not give the other party a chance to live. Chapter 3448. When the middle-grade king level secret technique, Whale Hunting Thunder Spear, pierced through the black-clothed martial artist's body, he realized that he had made a grave mistake. Unfortunately, it was too late. Ling Xiao's 5 swords merged into one and landed at the same time, ruthlessly smashing into the already heavily injured body of the black-clothed cultivator. Back when he had killed Yan Shifeng, Ling Xiao had come up with an idea. Reincarnation god realm cultivators weren't invincible. As long as he kept weakening his opponent, he could win. When Ling Xiao had killed Yan Shifeng, he had only been in the 8th stage of the life-seizing level. But now, Ling Xiao was at the peak of the heaven-seizing, fate-changing level. If a first-stage reincarnation god realm cultivator were to be injured in front of him, they would be doomed to eternal damnation. The black-robed man was smashed to pieces. He couldn't be more dead, and the entire process had taken much less time than Ling Xiao's fight with Red Mark. Where did this young man come from? How could he kill a first-stage reincarnation god realm cultivator so easily? In their eyes it was easy, but in Ling Xiao's eyes it wasn't that simple. If any step of his plan went wrong, it was possible that it would fail. Thankfully, his defenses were strong enough, and his life force was tenacious. Even if his plan failed, it wouldn't be easy for his opponent to kill him. He still had a chance to make up for it. Idiot, I told you. He's not easy to deal with. When Red Mark saw the black-robed man being killed, he didn't show the slightest bit of sympathy, only disdain and mockery. All of you attack together. Kill him together. The young woman from the Blood Axe Serpent clan realized that Ling Xiao wasn't easy to deal with. She also realized that no first-stage reincarnation god realm cultivator could kill Ling Xiao easily. Therefore, she didn't hesitate any longer and ordered the other reincarnation god realm cultivators to attack. No matter what, they had to kill Ling Xiao today. Let's see who's going to kill who today. Ling Xiao's killing intent had been aroused. After all, he had already offended this bullshit Blood Axe Serpent clan. Even if he didn't kill them, they would still kill him. Since that was the case, why should he show mercy? With a stomp of his foot, his figure suddenly disappeared. At that moment, the girl from the Blood Axe Serpent clan felt a chill from the bottom of her heart. It was as if she had been targeted by some terrifying monster. A chill ran down his spine, and his hair stood on end. Goosebumps rose all over his body. At that moment, she even seemed to see her own death. His heart was filled with extreme fear. Don't kill me. Facing Ling Xiao, who had the same cultivation level as her, this young girl from the Blood Axe Snake clan had completely lost the will to resist. She couldn't believe that a 17-year-old youth could have such a strong and terrifying murderous aura. Protect Miss. Red Spot's face became extremely nervous. It might not be easy for this Ling Xiao to kill them, but because of his strange attacks, it was definitely not that difficult for him to kill their young Mississippi. For example, his current state. That kid had actually disappeared without a trace. Even though he tried his best to release his soul power to search for the other party's whereabouts, he couldn't find even the slightest bit of aura. This was simply too terrifying. It was as if this person had disappeared into thin air. But he could reappear at any time and kill their young Mississippi die. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the void. At the same time, a sword had already pierced towards the young girl from the Blood Axe Snake clan. The young girl was completely stunned, and it was impossible for her to dodge. It was even more impossible for her to block it. At this time, the others wanted to block the sword for the young girl, but it was also impossible. The angle Ling Xiao chose was too strange, and the timing was just right. Am I going to die? The young girl watched in horror as the tip of the sword approached. She had already felt the sharpness and stinging pain from the sword. Miss. At this critical moment, Red Spot's arm strangely stretched out by about a foot. This foot was enough to save the young girl's life. Ling Xiao's sword was blocked by this arm, and in the end, it still missed and didn't kill the young girl. However, the young girl still screamed miserably, because the whole arm was cut off. Red Spot, you trash! The young girl hysterically roared. Not only did she not thank Red Spot for sacrificing his arm to save her life, she even insulted him. Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. This kind of woman, even if she didn't die under his sword, would die in the hands of others sooner or later. She was too arrogant and didn't know how to be grateful. Take the young miss away, quick! Red Spot was a loyal dog. Even if the young girl treated him like this, he still stood in front of the young girl. The other warriors of the reincarnation divine realm took the young girl and fled. Darkfrost tried to kill them to silence them, but was stopped by Red Spot. Filled with hatred, he killed Red Spot with a palm. So, you are the most terrifying one. Only then did Red Spot realize that among the four of them, the strongest was not Ling Xiao, but the little girl who seemed to be too weak to stand up to the wind. Let's go, big brother Ling Xiao. When those guys go back, they will definitely summon even more terrifying experts. I have also heard of the Blood Axe Snake Clan. Their strongest patriarch definitely has the strength to crush me. Dark Frost reminded. They couldn't wait to die here. Escaping is not a good idea. We are going to participate in the Divine Devil Tournament. Sooner or later, we will be discovered by the Blood Axe Snake Clan. I think that woman's status is not low. Why don't we take her as a hostage? Ling Xiao laughed. Are you kidding? Taking the Blood Axe Snake Clan as a hostage in the Divine Devil City? Do Han was shocked. Don't worry, I will go alone. I won't implicate you. Ling Xiao said. Brother Ling, you misunderstood. We are not afraid of being implicated, but this idea is too bold. I am just a little surprised. Do Han shook his head. I know, but I still have to go alone. I have the special skill of the shadow dancer. I can capture that woman without anyone knowing, and you guys will be easily exposed. Ling Xiao laughed. If that's the case, I will go with you. Dark Frost said, You still don't know that our soul clan has the special ability to leave the body. Although my combat strength will only be around the second level of rebirth realm after leaving the body, I can definitely be of great help to you. Do Han, Zhan Han, both of you take my body and leave. There is no need for that. Just put your body in my beast ring. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Do Han and Zhan Han, both of you hide first to avoid being implicated. The way I see it, the reason why the Blood Axe Serpent clan can run amok is not because they are boasting. They do possess terrifying strength. Although both of you may not be willing to accept it, the fact is that you can only deal with the minions of the Blood Axe Snake clan. You are completely powerless against the experts. Sai, I am so sorry that I can't help you at all. Do Han and Zhan Han looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Let's find a place to stay first. Let's meet up after you are done with your business. Although they felt uncomfortable in their hearts, this was the truth. The martial artists in the Divine Devil City were too powerful. Chapter 3449. Just as Ling Xiao had guessed, the girl from the Blood Axe Snake clan did not learn her lesson after she escaped. Instead, she gritted her teeth and said, Go back and send out all the people from the family. I don't believe that he can kill a first-level reincarnation divine realm martial artist, let alone a second-level reincarnation divine realm martial artist. There must be someone who can kill him. Miss is right. No matter how strong he is only a heaven-changing fate realm martial artist. Even if he can challenge those above his level, the first level of the reincarnation divine realm is his limit. As long as we can find a second-level reincarnation divine realm expert, we can definitely kill him. To them, such a thing was common sense. Otherwise, a person who defied the heavens beyond common sense would be too terrifying. The forces of the Western region might not have this capital, but the Blood Axe Snake clan had this capital. A first-level reincarnation divine realm martial artist could not be considered an expert in the Blood Axe Snake clan. They could only be considered above average. With the girl's identity, it was not a problem to gather a few second-level reincarnation divine realm martial artists. It seems that this woman is really used to being arrogant and never thought that someone could take her life. In that case, I, Ling Xiao, will be the first person to eat crabs today. Ling Xiao did not care who the other party was. Since this girl was unwilling to let him go no matter what, how could he surrender? If he did not kill this idiot woman, he was afraid that the God-Devil Invitational Tournament would not be able to proceed in peace. Do you want to kill me that much? Suddenly, a ghostly voice sounded in the girl's ear. The girl was startled. The experts who were escorting the girl were so scared that their faces turned pale. When they realized the danger, Ling Xiao's hand had already grabbed the girl's neck, although it was only a hand and not a blade. But no one would doubt the terror of this hand. As long as Ling Xiao was willing, he could easily break the girl's neck. Let go of my miss. A few first-level reincarnation divine realm martial artists were anxious. Let go of her? Sure, wait until the God-Devil Invitational Tournament is over. Ling Xiao was also unwilling to start a war with the Blood Axe Snake clan. Therefore, using this girl as a hostage was the best choice. Go back and tell your Blood Axe Snake clan's upper echelons that this woman's life is not in danger for the time being. But don't provoke me. Otherwise, I'll turn her into a corpse. Ling Xiao was not joking at all. Those martial artists at the first level of the reincarnation divine realm all had the same feeling. When Ling Xiao had killed the Blood Axe Snake clan's cultivators, he hadn't even blinked. This person was absolutely a fearless fellow. It would be impossible to use the Blood Axe Snake clan to threaten him. Go! After a short discussion, they quickly left. However, after a few hundred meters, only one of them went back to report. The rest of the people stayed behind to keep an eye on them. They knew that if the girl was in any danger, they wouldn't be able to survive. Although Ling Xiao had said that he wouldn't take the girl's life for the time being, how could they believe the executioner's words? They had to stay and keep an eye on Ling Xiao. What about Ling Xiao? He had no intention of leaving at all. Since he had taken the girl hostage, he naturally had to use her as a hostage. If he left just like that, what was the point? He knew that there would be stronger martial artists coming, but this couldn't change his plan. All along, he liked to pull the teeth from the tiger's mouth. This time was no exception. Not long after, a group of experts hurried over. Their arrival attracted the attention of many martial artists. What's going on? Even the Blood Axe Snake clan's second-level reincarnation divine realm powerhouse has appeared. Who is so bold to offend the Blood Axe Snake clan to such an extent? I heard that the Blood Axe Snake clan's eldest miss was kidnapped and had an arm chopped off. Damn, who is it? So valiant? It's said that it's a foreign martial artist from the Western region. Western region martial artist? Impossible. Those guys are a bunch of cowards. It's fine to fight among themselves, but who dares to provoke the God-Devil City? I remember that there was a dragon mother from the Myriad Kingdom in the past. Her daughter died, but she didn't even dare to fart. That seems to be the strongest person in the Western region. Who knows? Maybe it's some fool who isn't afraid of death. Amidst the discussions of the crowd, the experts of the Blood Axe Snake clan landed one after another and surrounded Ling Xiao, who was sitting there drinking tea and listening to a tune. Those who have nothing to do with this, get out. With an order, countless people in the tea house fled. Even the martial artists in the God-Devil City knew how terrifying the Blood Axe Snake clan was. They definitely couldn't afford to offend them. Therefore, when the Blood Axe Snake clan told them to get out, they could only get out. In an instant, only the Blood Axe Snake clan and Ling Xiao were left in the tea house. Save me. The young girl had long lost her previous arrogance and domineering aura. She had become panicked. Let go of my young miss. A second-level reincarnation divine realm martial artist shouted sternly. At the same time, a terrifying aura was released from his body and engulfed Ling Xiao, wanting to knock him out. However, how could Ling Xiao, who had already experienced the deterrence of the Heavenly King Sky Sword Annihilation Domain, be afraid of this aura? He sneered disdainfully and lightly scratched with his fingernail. A trace of blood flowed down the young girl's neck. This scene stunned all the experts of the Blood Axe Snake clan for a moment, and then their faces turned ugly. They were here to save their young miss. If their young miss was killed because of their negligence, the patriarch of the Blood Axe Snake clan would definitely not let them off. If you are here to negotiate, we can have a good talk. If you are here to find fault, then continue to pressure me. Then you can continue to pressure me. If my hand accidentally trembles, perhaps this girl's neck will be broken. At that time, don't blame me for being ruthless. It was you who killed her. Ling Xiao's voice was still so indifferent. However, It made the faces of the Blood Axe Snake clan change drastically. They could hear the coldness and killing intent in Ling Xiao's voice. This was a madman who absolutely couldn't be judged by common sense. They couldn't bear the price of their young miss's death. Once their young miss was killed, they probably wouldn't have an easy time. Boy, you should know what you are doing, right? The person who spoke first frowned and continued. There was still a hint of threat in his voice, as if he wanted these people to completely submit to this unknown brat. It wouldn't be that easy. Shut up, do you want to kill me? The young girl screamed in horror. Although her neck was no longer bleeding, waves of pain were still coming. He wanted her to understand her situation. She didn't care about the prestige of the family. She only cared about whether she could leave alive. The leading expert frowned. Although he was unwilling to bow to this young man, he had no other choice at this moment. Tell me, what do you want? That person said, as long as it is something we can do, we will definitely do it. Our only request is that you must return the young miss. Chapter 3450. That's right. That's more like a businessman. Ling Xiao nodded with a smile. Suddenly, he struck the girl's back with a terrifying palm force. The girl screamed as her meridians were all broken. You crippled me. The girl roared hysterically. Don't blame me. They're the ones playing tricks. Ling Xiao looked coldly at the Blood Axe Snake clan's expert and said, At 4 o'clock, the one who is only 2 meters away from me can come out. Your invisibility technique is not very good. If you don't come out, I'll kill her now. I believe that if she dies, your fate will be worse than mine. In the corner where no one was, a figure gradually appeared. It was a martial artist at the first level of the reincarnation divine realm, but he had a special shadow martial spirit. However, Ling Xiao had the shadow martial spirit before, so he was very familiar with its characteristics. Trying to avoid his soul force detection was simply a fantasy. Screwed up. The man frowned. He didn't kill the girl, but also caused the girl's cultivation to be crippled. This loss was too great. Don't act rashly. Otherwise, I'll do what I say. I won't let her have an easy time. Ling Xiao did not have the slightest bit of sympathy or pity for the beauty in his hands. If he pitied her now, he would be cruel to himself. He would be courting death. Stop, we won't mess around anymore. You don't have to do anything. The leader's face was extremely ugly. He was regretful, embarrassed, and a little afraid. The young man in front of him had a maturity and insidiousness that didn't match his age. Such a person was really not to be trifled with. I hope so. Ling Xiao sneered and said, Although this girl is crippled, maybe it's a good thing for her. Relying on a little strength, she acted recklessly on the street. She didn't meet a fierce character in the past, so she was safe and sound. Today she met me. She's unlucky. Without strength, she should be able to restrain herself in the future. At least, under the protection of the elders, she can live for a few more days. Hearing Ling Xiao's words, the girl didn't have any intention of repenting. In her heart, there was only anger. She was still thinking that, as long as she could escape, she must kill this person. She definitely wouldn't let this person continue to live. Of course, Ling Xiao didn't care what she was thinking, because Ling Xiao had his own plans. I don't ask for much. I'm going to participate in the God and Devil Invitational Tournament, and I'll keep this woman's life. When we leave the God-Devil City, I'll let her go. During this period of time, it's best that your Blood Axe Snake clan doesn't do anything. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I won't ruthlessly destroy a flower. The reason why Ling Xiao stayed behind was to say this. It would be best if the peace talks. If they couldn't reach an agreement, they could just leave. The inheritance ancient. Moreover, he believed that the map of the Western Divine Tombs that he possessed was definitely the key to the ancient sword Imperial Mausoleum. although it was not one of the keys. But it was something even more important. Without the map of the Western region, even if those people obtained all the keys and opened the ancient Sword Emperor's tomb, they wouldn't be able to obtain the ancient Sword Emperor's inheritance. Of course, that was the worst-case scenario. Maybe his luck was good. Not only could he participate in the God and Devil Invitational Tournament safely, but he could also obtain the ancient Sword Emperor's inheritance. Let's do it this way. If you let our young lady go, we can guarantee that we won't attack you during the God and Devil Invitational Tournament. The leader of the experts said, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? It's fine if you don't have sincerity. Or rather, with your status, you're not qualified to negotiate with me. Since that's the case, find someone who is qualified. I'll take my leave first." Ling Xiao smiled coldly and turned to leave. He only left a sentence. "If I find out who's following me, I'll immediately kill this woman. If you don't believe me, you can try." The reason why he left now was because he already knew the Blood Axe Snake clan's attitude. As one of the 3 great families in the God and Devil City, it was absolutely impossible for them to accept his request, even if he had a hostage. This was a great family. Sometimes they were terrifyingly cruel. For the sake of the family's face, they could abandon anyone, including the family's patriarch. And that young lady clearly did not have such a status, so she was even easier to abandon. There was actually no point for him to stay here. If another one came, he would probably still be as arrogant. The Blood Axe Snake clan's martial artists looked on helplessly as Ling Xiao left with their young lady. But there was nothing they could do. They wanted to chase after them, but they were worried that this action would cause their young lady to be killed. However, if they did not chase, if their young lady was in any danger, the unlucky ones in the end would still be them. The internal conflict in their hearts put them in a dilemma. All of you go back. This matter is indeed not something we can handle. It's better to quickly report to the young patriarch and let him make a decision. The Blood Axe Snake clan's people came quickly and left quickly. Only a group of dumbfounded passers-by were left behind. They never dreamed that a youth who looked to be 16 or 17 years old would actually dare to cripple their young lady in front of the Blood Axe Snake clan's people. Yet, after doing this, he could still leave safely. This ability was probably something that many martial artists in the Divine Devil City could not do. When did such a person appear in the Western region? Even the ancient Sword Emperor might not be so domineering back then. After returning to their residence, Ling Xiao told them what had happened. Both Du Han and John Han were dumbfounded. Both of them could not believe that such a thing was actually true. Ling Xiao actually dared to cripple the young lady of the Blood Axe Snake clan. Will there be anyone following us? Du Han asked cautiously. No, I have checked carefully and confirmed that there is no problem. Darkfrost said. At this time, Darkfrost had returned to her original appearance. With her terrifying strength at the 3rd level of the Reincarnation Divine Realm, coupled with her identity as a Soul Clan member, basically no one could avoid her search. What should we do with that woman? Darkfrost looked at Ling Xiao and asked, Let's keep her for the time being. It's not too late to kill her if she's really useless. Anyway, she's in my beast ring and won't affect anything. Ling Xiao thought for a while and said, Ling Xiao did not have the slightest bit of pity for the young lady. In fact, when the young lady ordered the white ape to devour the little girl, he already felt that the woman was bound to die. Not to mention that the woman wanted to kill him again and again. With his character, how could he be merciful? He would kill if he had to. But now the woman's life was still useful, so he did not intend to kill her so early. Okay, we'll do as you say. Darkfrost was naturally willing to listen to Ling Xiao. It's a pity that today's shopping plan has to be cancelled. Everyone have a good rest. There are more important things in the central square tomorrow. Ling Xiao sighed. The people of the Blood Axe Snake clan really deserve to die. They made him unable to even go shopping in peace. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.